I know if Mike's watching this, he's probably going to catch me for not saying appropriately.
Yeah, why isn't he here?
The chairman was just wanted to play it extra safe because there's a wage reopener for the police union, and because this is talking about policy of the Board of Selectmen, which could impact budgets one way or the other, he didn't want to be perceived as having any influence on the police union negotiations. It's his call, he's being ultra-conservative.
So it says introductions here, so I'm Jack Trainey, the Vice Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and
Dick Ward.
Hi, Dick.
Helen Maroney?
Yeah.
Sarah Humans.
I'm Jeff Nutting.
Michael Malinowski.
Cool.
so now Jeff Knighting, the facilitator, will conduct a workshop between the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen to get issues, concerns, and goals of the Board of Selectmen.
Ready to roll?
Sure.
Well, it's an honor and pleasure for me
Role
to...
of the facilitator.
Yep, I'm going to get to that. So thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure. I want to give you just a little background about myself and my job here tonight before we delve into the meat of the meeting. I began my career in local government in 1976 when I was appointed to the Finance Committee in my hometown. I chaired the committee when I was in college. Served as a selectman, like you folks know that struggle. Chaired a school committee as well. Sat in this guy's seat for 20 years. During most of the 1980s, I did interim management work. You just had Jim Purcell here. I did 11 assignments, similar to what Jim did, in various communities of various sizes. And when I wasn't doing that, I was doing consulting work for communities as small as Sheffield and as large as Fall River. Did over 100 different assignments, personnel studies, organizational studies. I started doing training like this in the mid-'80s. I've probably done 100 of these through my career. Became the full-time town administrator in Stoneham in '92 and in Franklin in 2001. But I'm still asked to do 3 or 4 or 5 of these a year by my colleagues. I don't go looking for the work. I do enjoy doing them. And I tell you all this just to tell you that I've sat in your seat. I know it's a really difficult job. I've sat in his seat. I know that's a tough job. Local government is the heart and soul of every community, and it gets harder every year. I look back in my 35 years, and every year it seems just to get a little tougher, especially in a down economy. But I think if a board has a game plan and is united and has a vision, you can still move your community forward, whether in good times and bad, and that's what we're really going to talk about tonight. So my job is to facilitate a discussion, bring to the table some of the information that you provided me. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I don't know anything about your community. I don't know what's right or wrong. I might offer some suggestions or wisdom or how other folks do it in other communities just from the exposure I've had. But at the end of the day, I leave town and you stay here and lead your community. So that's my job tonight, to help the board come to consensus on certain things and so you can move your community forward. Questions? Make sense? Okay. Thanks. The first time I ever worked with a board, I always ask the same questions because having sat in your seat in other public bodies, I've always found it fascinating that you run for office because you care about your community, you want to make a difference, you want to give back. You stand for election, which is not easy. You're fortunate enough to win. You go down to the town hall, you raise your right hand, the clerk swears you in. You show up at the meeting, you get a seat and a sign. So far, so good? And then maybe you can tell me, you're the newest elected, tell me about the rest of the training you got after you got elected.
Well, I had come to the municipal meeting,
Right.
which was very, very helpful. But I have to say, though, the group was very helpful when I first
Right.
got going, and because I had been on the finance committee,
Right, so you had a common niche.
a common knowledge of what was to happen. But I do have to tell you that it's a learning curve in terms of the private sector versus municipal.
Absolutely.
And you kind of learn that as you go.
And one of the challenges, and so what happens, you generally assimilate into the board and do what the board does.
That's right.
And if you have an awesome board, that's great. And if you have a terrible board, it's not fun. But a lot of times boards don't take the time to deal with new members and all the members is how we're going to work as a team. What are we going to do when we disagree? How are we going to disagree professionally? Because you're when you're in the private sector or the not-for-profit sector, you're handpicked to be on the board of directors. Here, the stockholders pick you, and you might have 5 different visions of what the organization should do, but ultimately, you're one group, and you need to go in one direction. So a lot of times, boards don't take the time to talk about where we're going, how we're going to get there, what happens when we disagree, are we going to badmouth people down at the coffee shop, I didn't get my way on that vote, so I'm not going to vote for you on the next time, and all the things that that can go on in settings, in the public setting. And if you've been on a good board, it's one of the most fun, enjoyable, exciting times you can have. And if you're on a board that isn't so much fun, it's like, oh, I have to go to another meeting. So one of the goals is to get folks involved, that there's plenty of room for disagreement on policy and direction and what's right for the town, but ultimately, when the discussion's done and the vote's taken, it's, okay, what's next? And trying to learn that takes time, and getting folks not only on the board, but when people run for the board, set an expectation that, you bring a talent, but we're still a team. We're not 5 individuals. So part of tonight, we'll be talking just a little bit about that, because a lot of towns don't do that. I don't know how often you've had a goal-setting session. Okay, so this is your first annual one. You don't have to have a professional person come and do this every year, but it's always good to get off on the right start, because 3 years goes by like that, and you think back and said, we went to 32 meetings every year, and I asked you, what got accomplished, and I got a list of 5 or 6 things. You hired the TA, you hired an accountant, you fire station committee, MSBA, you listed 3 or 4 or 5 different things, and you thought, wow, I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I could only think of those 5 things. And there were plenty more, but the point being is that when you set goals and have a game plan, and you have a list over time, it might take you 4 years. Oh yeah, we started that 4 years ago, check. Versus, okay, what's the latest crisis that we're facing? So, both a short-term and a long-term game plan is helpful, and I think it sets the tone for the community as well. When you set out, here's our expectations, and it also links directly to what expectations get set of the town administrator, that what the board wants to accomplish. So that's all the things we'll talk about this evening, and if anytime you have questions, comment, you agree or disagree, just speak up. So, and we will take a break after a while, because I did notice dessert. The first question I asked everybody, and I'll just pass these around if you would, give one this way, is what are the 3 most important jobs of a selectman?
Jeff,
Yep.
what do they do in Congress and the Senate in Washington? Do they have a training session for the new?
Obviously not.
I think they do. They go to Harvard every 2 years, if I remember, but that's right. So I always ask everybody, what are the 3 most important jobs? Because being a selectman, there are a lot of responsibilities, but when you focus on you as a board of directors, and whether you're a selectman or a school committee or a not-for-profit, what are the 3 most important things you have to do? And sometimes, if everybody had a little training and a little background, I'd get 3 answers. But that never happens, obviously, because everybody has a different idea, and they're rarely wrong. In fact, most of them are right, to the extent of what you folks put down here. A lot of good stuff. But when you think about your job as you move forward, what are you trying to do? The first and most important job you have is to hire the CEO. Well, you already did that. To manage that person, to figure out what the communication rules are with that person, and to set goals and to evaluate that person. So it's a real team effort, So what do you want to accomplish? What is his responsibilities in doing that? And then, has he done a good job, a great job? So hiring the CEO, all right, that's done for the next 8, 10, 12 years, Mike, maybe? Lifetime, we'll see.
We're starting with 5.
Okay, 5. The second most important job of any board is to set policy and strategic direction. where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, and what are the rules of engagement. Okay, and you know, I don't know what you have for policies now. A lot of boards have some. If you've ever been on a school committee, the policy manual is about yay thick. A lot of towns don't have. Some have policies on how you use town council. Some have policies on, but to set policy and goals, what's the game plan? And that's hard because the third thing, which is to resolve problems that can't be resolved by somebody else, which means use the chain of command. Now, statutorily, you have a lot of responsibilities that only the Board of Selectmen can carry out. But on a day-to-day basis, you have a staff. And one of the things that over my career, and you see, a lot of times selectmen, you know, they want to be down in the DPW garage telling them what to do. They want to be down in the town hall every day telling them what to do. In other words, you know what? The chain of command is pretty simple. The board of directors to the CEO to the staff, and, you know, if you see a problem, you pick up the phone and say, Mike, there's a pothole, get that fixed. But not to micromanage, you know. And I worked down the Cape. There was a lot of retired people. They'd want to come in and hang around the town hall for 3 hours a day. And I'm thinking, you're just interrupting my staff from getting everything done. But that's your boss, so it's hard to say anything about it. You know, it's one thing to check in and say, how's it going? You got 5 minutes. But people, you know, they had nothing to do, and maybe they didn't get along with their spouse. I'm not sure, but. It's very disruptive. You know, if you have a, you know, say, hey, every Tuesday I want to come by for 10 minutes. Okay, I get that. But it's hard to spend more time on the big stuff than the little stuff, because the little stuff's easy to resolve. Yeah. It makes people happy, puts a smile on their face and your face, makes you feel like you've accomplished something. Oh, Mrs. Smith's branch needs trimming. Oh, I'll vote for that. And yeah, all that stuff's important, but it's not as important as how we're going to get the big stuff done. And that's a lot more frustrating because sometimes it takes a long time, and it takes a financial game plan, and there's not always consensus. So if you're going to be leaders, you have to be willing to take on the tough stuff and the big challenges and still save enough time to take all the things that you're legally responsible and the other stuff that comes up. So the more things you can ultimately push aside, that you know, either, you know, and every town has different bylaws and et cetera. The more stuff you can ultimately unload onto the staff, the more time you have to spend in discussions about complicated issues. Mm-hmm. And that's a community by community basis. And sometimes in little towns, the selectmen out west where I do business, the selectmen still do 98% of the work. You know, they have a part-time person, you know, and you get into a place where I work and the town administrator, you know, is the sole appointing authority, hands out all the licenses except annual liquor licenses, does a lot of things that boards of selectmen do in other communities. Right. But every community is different, and you have to get to that at your own pace. But, you know, there's egos, there's fiefdoms, there's all those other things involved in trying to streamline government. And so part of, if you can, you know, if you can look at even that over time, there are things we don't have to, you know, I noticed you came in and signed the warrant.
Right.
Where I work, I sign the warrant.
Right.
So you have to show up every week, or how often you do your warrant, and you got to make sure 3 people are around.
That's
and
right.
Yada yada yada. And it's only 247 years old, or how old your town is, that selectmen have been doing that. And some people want to do it because they love it, and other people, what do I have to come around on Tuesday
Right, because
for?
you have to trust the staff.
Well, you have an accountant, a treasurer,
Right,
a TA.
exactly.
You have a lot of other checks and balances,
Exactly.
and ultimately, so I mean, I use that as an example because I
Right.
heard you when you came in saying, oh, we have to sign the warrant. I remember as a selectman doing the same thing and thinking, that's kind of a pain in August when I want to be away on vacation, but, so that was just an example. So, here you put some really good stuff. Represent the needs of the community, sounding board, listen to opinions. Obviously, that talks about understanding the needs and wants and desires of your constituents. All good stuff. And then you talked about leadership. That's really what it's all about. Act as professionals, leave politics to others, civility, provide leadership. Great stuff. The next three are really about policy. You know, what you put on the ballot or on the warrant, that's a policy discussion. You know, those are budgetary issues. The budget is probably the biggest policy statement the board has on an annual basis. You know, do you want more public safety, public works, public education? Those are all policy decisions. Now, ultimately, the town meeting will make that decision, but you're the leaders to say, how do we want to drive this bus? In a lot of towns I worked with, unfortunately, the selectmen give up that authority to the finance committee, whereas in most towns, there are a couple in Massachusetts where finance committees elected, but I always see the selectmen as the chief elected officials that ought to set the tone, drive the bus, set the direction, and if people are free to disagree or agree with that, but the other folks that need to lead the community. And the last two you put down are just statutory requirements, I'm assuming, of your community. Obviously, the warrant is, and here, hiring the council. So all good answers, and I'd frame that as, you know, obviously the policy one is the second most important thing, and doing things that can't be done by other things, and clearly the warrant and the council are exactly that. So I'm going to give you an A for all of that, as people had a sense of what their role and responsibility was.
All right, team, we got an A.
Okay.
First question.
Move to adjourn. So.
Now we gotta take a break.
No. So then I asked a lot of questions about how the board could be more effective. And a lot of the feedback to that relates to, you know, I don't know anything about Carter, but I read what I read, and sometimes folks don't seem to be getting along. Is that true, false, old news, new news? Could you work better together?
More than true.
What's more than true?
That's what you're here for.
Okay, what's
Show us how
that?
to do that.
That this,
Work better together.
Okay.
yeah.
And the issue, you talking about among the board, or with the board and the TA, or?
The board within itself.
Okay, and what would you say are is it personalities, legitimate disagreements? You know, I've been around, you know, I've sat on boards, well, you know, that guy screwed my father, so I'm gonna get, you know, or, you know, so.
It starts with the town. The town, unfortunately, is pretty divided in
Okay.
half.
Okay,
It's pretty much divided in half.
okay.
And
Is that gender, I mean, not gender, is that new people, old people, different sections of town?
I think it's more political beliefs
Okay.
in terms of conservative versus something else.
Okay,
know.
so you like the rest of America, okay.
Well, you know, and that's what I was going to
Microcosm.
share with you. What's happening in our town
Right,
is really on the national level. It's something's happened in terms of respect for authority and just respect for one another as citizens. It seems like starting from the national level down, that once you share your political views of what you are,
Right.
like I'm a conservative, I don't
Okay.
hide it.
Okay.
I mean, I let everybody know that, and that's why I got involved with the board. But it seems like once you say I'm a conservative, you get put into a camp
okay, at a bigger level.
at a bigger level. And I'm saying, starting from the national
Right,
level
okay.
down. And it's the same with the people that aren't like me.
Hmm.
Once they say what they're all about, they get put into a camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're treated negatively from the conservatives. Or do you know what I mean?
I get that.
It's,
So how does that play out when you decide, geez, we need a new police cruiser? You don't say, well, I'm a liberal and I'm conservative. You either need a police cruiser or you don't.
well, I'm just giving you an idea
Right.
of how the town, I can't really say
So how does it play itself
splits.
out on the board?
Well, quite frankly, I think I get along with everybody. I mean, sometimes there's been personal issues that I think they've gotten in the way that has caused a little bit of controversy. But quite frankly, I think it's gotten kind of nasty. And the way it's been playing out on the board, I think, is we're hurting each other. And I think that whether it be people that we may be affiliated with, that are out, blogging, saying nasty things, or even our own board writing newsletters or talking behind one's back instead of confronting one another together. And that bothers me, because I can, and it's important me to say this tonight, because we made a pledge a few weeks ago. We signed a code of conduct. Was that what we called it, the blogging?
That's on blogging, right?
On blogging.
I saw that, yeah.
I can unequivocally, positively say I have never said anything negatively about my team here.
Right.
I have never gone under a blog under an anonymous name. None of my family has ever gone under an anonymous name. If anything, I have always wanted to work in harmony with this board. And I make a pledge to continue to do that.
Right.
Because I am the type of person, and I think we're getting there. I think we've improved dramatically in terms of working together.
Have you ever had a discussion before tonight about it?
Yeah, well.
Okay. I mean, yeah, maybe behind the scenes, one-on-one,
Yeah,
but not.
Yeah, not out in public, except for last week, the last meeting when Mike brought up the policy. But,
The blogging policy.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that we all need to make a pledge. You know, the policy was good, but I think now what we all need to do is make a pledge to go to all of the people that we know out there, whether we know whether they're blogging or whether we know that they're saying mean things, to stop.
Okay.
Because we have to be leaders in this community. Our kids are watching us on TV.
And do you have your own adopted code of conduct, how you're going to operate as a board?
Not really.
Not at this point, no.
So I brought one. I wrote one 25 or plus years ago that went in the Beacon, having been a selectman and having similar issues, and thinking, you know what? And it's been, you know, a lot of towns have used it and added and subtracted, but the basis of it is, you know, what a code of conduct might look like as it relates to how boards are going to act, how you're going to treat the manager, how you're going to treat each other. And obviously, each town has to tweak. So this is just a framework and this happens to be the town of Sudbury. You can get these on anybody's
Thank you.
webpage. I can tell you that in Franklin, after every election, all the policies get revoted, and this is the first one. I know it's a little different than Sudbury's. I could, give you Franklin's, but the idea is to set an expectation about when you sit down at this table. There's all kinds of room to disagree on policy and direction and budget and priorities, but there should be no room to disagree on being respectful, being a leader, not bad-mouthing people because you disagree with their opinion. And when the vote's taken, it's done. And if it's 3-2, 4-1, and if you're on the winning side or the losing side, life goes on. If you know what, if you were always right, we'd only need one member. That's why there's 5, because it's the wisdom and judgment of the collective body. So I think if you're really serious about not only with this board, but future boards, and quite frankly, if you ever adopt something, if someone's running for office, you know what, wouldn't it be nice to have that before they showed up at the board? Because this is how we do our business.
Right.
And we're going to hold ourselves accountable, and all of our members accountable to this, because it's not about you and your egos. It's about the town of Carver. And the disagreements ought to stop at this table.
Exactly.
And the best committee I was ever on, we would have tremendous debates. And it didn't matter if you were 6-1 on one end or the other one. Okay, let's go have a beer.
Right.
And life went on. And I wasn't down the coffee shop, saying, geez, I'm the only one right and everybody else is wrong. Because you get bombarded, you know it. Everybody comes up to you and wants to pick your brain. And if they agree with you, they hear you, and they disagree with you. So I think so that's just one instrument. It's not the end-all and be-all, but it begins to set a tone of civility of how we are going to act as a board. And this one's a little longer, and again, there's a lot of them out there, but, treat with respect the rights of all members despite differences of opinion, okay? 3F. And isn't that really what we're talking about?
It's huge.
Uphold the executive session, make decisions based on facts. Don't make a decision before you show up at the meeting. Gee, wouldn't it be nice to know all the facts before I decide? So, I mean, you can read this through and make your own decision. You can tweak it, you can look at 100 other ones, but it's one way, you know, but it's like anything else. Unless you're personally committed to it, and unless you self-police each other, it isn't going to work.
What do you do about self-policing? I mean, for example, I mean, I've seen it, I've witnessed it. I see different
It
board
comes.
members being hurt.
Yeah, but it comes down to the board. If one person's, you know, saying something to another, it's up to every member to say, wait a minute, time out. We don't do our business that way. It's okay to disagree, but it's going to be at a respectful level.
Right.
I mean, it takes it's like anything else. It takes practice. And if there's no person, you know, I've worked with people, hey, I'm elected, I'm going to do what I want, don't tell me what to do, you know, and the other four, I said, okay, you know, this person's coming forward, there's four of you, and you're all playing on the team, he doesn't want to do it, okay, you know that, life will go on, you know what, the chairman doesn't necessarily have to recognize you, he controls the meeting. You don't have to let him bring up the same thing 16 times in a row. You can gavel people down if they're inappropriate. I mean, a lot of this, you know, falls to the chair to run an efficient and effective and fair meeting. But it really falls on everybody else to say, geez, remember our policy, Mr. Chairman? Or, you know, whoever's saying what, you know, take a time out.
This was one of the challenges I had, because coming from management in the private sector, I mean, a lot of the behavior that's happening out there wouldn't be accepted and people would be fired. But you learn as a manager to get along and work.
Well, it's also not in the public setting.
Right.
It's not on cable TV, and it's not in the newspaper.
What's that?
In the private sector. So you have all these other challenges.
Oh, absolutely,
They're
absolutely.
in the public's eye all the time.
What else? Anybody else got thoughts or comments?
Sure. I've been around now longer than anybody here. Yeah.
For better or
Yeah,
worse?
look it.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
anyway, you know, I try to stay at a professional level much as I can. When I first came on, this blogging thing was really at its worst. And I remember being shown on one of the blogging networks as having a beard and a turban like a terrorist.
Right.
Okay, and when you get portrayed, I've been in town for 50 years.
Right.
A lot of these folks, Alan, I had them in school.
Right.
Okay, I was a teacher. I don't like being portrayed in that nasty way.
Right.
But I have never written a blog
Right.
on any of these networks because, first of all, I'm
Slippery
not very
slope
good
there.
with words, written
Right.
words, and I'd mess it up for sure. But, so I do not like that, have never liked that, right from the get-go. Tried to keep as much as I could on an upstanding level. I would love to have a code that we would all abide by, if we could put it that way. And I think it's going to be self-disciplining. I mean, I sign this, I live by it. If somebody else isn't living by it, I don't see how I can say, no, you shouldn't be saying this or that. I might stop the meeting and say, wait a minute, let's get back to the issues,
Right.
the issue at hand. But as far as differences of opinions, I'm sure Helen and I probably disagree because, for one thing, we're both of different backgrounds. I'm kind of a liberal,
It's okay.
and
That's okay.
I was a teacher for 31 years, and so I do believe in a lot of the democratic principles, but they don't apply very often in
Local
our
government,
local
exactly.
government.
No,
You know, I worked in
I
New
mean-
York and New Jersey and other places, and people on the local boards are Republicans and Democrats.
Yep.
And they spend more time fighting about that. The
No,
great thing
Yeah,
about
no.
Massachusetts is you don't have national politics at the local level. I mean, you can have a philosophy
good thing.
in line with that, but you don't run as a Republican or a
Right.
Democrat. And quite frankly, when you're trying to figure out how to pave the street, it's not about being a Republican or a Democrat.
Exactly.
It's, okay? So
Right.
98% of the things you'll ever talk about have nothing to do with national
That's true.
Right.
politics.
But some of the issues come down to maybe, like, for example, the school issue that has been voted on 3 times in town. I'm definitely pro-schools, and Helen is especially concerned with the financials.
But I'm
So
for the
we might,
school.
but you
Yeah, but-
voted against
but
it at other times.
being
But
legitimate-
that's all right, I'm
but
not saying that.
disagreeing
I'm just
is
saying
fine.
we were disagreeing.
So what?
Okay, yeah, no, I get along with that fine, because I would go out and have a beer with Helen anytime.
But this is
But-
this is a great example. He just said, but I voted down at certain times because there were certain times where there were different votes that were more fiscally conservative. But then it was being spread out there. This is a great example
Okay, good.
of that I was against the school. And that wasn't fair because I am so for the school.
But some of that
it's-
would happen anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying amongst us. This is
No,
why I'm saying that.
okay.
We need to learn to say, you need to speak with that person directly. You know, that's why I was always advocating my office hours, so people could hear it from my mouth, what my true beliefs were, instead of, you know, people kind of egging on the fact that because I voted no at one point because I didn't agree with the financial mechanism,
Okay.
does not mean I'm against the school. It means that I felt there was a better plan, and I think we needed to go back to the drawing board. But that was just an example. But
I don't hold Helen, I don't want to call Helen names because she differs on that
Right.
from me.
Right.
No. That's what, it was an example of a 7 difference of opinion.
Right.
And,
That's fine.
But I don't think at any time, even though Helen and I disagree on some of those issues, we've ever had,
we always
words?
get along.
we have not
Okay.
had words. I mean, I'm not calling.
And so what
her
about other
names or
folks
Vice
here?
versa.
Well, I'm particularly the subject of nasty
Yeah,
lines
it
with
is
my
true.
fellow board of
We work well
selectmen. So,
together.
Okay.
and, you know, I've been portrayed as being against the school, and having a father that spent his career teaching school, and my oldest brother
Right.
taught 32 years. My father's since passed away, and this, you know, I couldn't, you know, wholeheartedly be against the school.
Right.
I am concerned about the finances,
Okay.
you know, in the way they're portrayed, the way the information that comes out. And I don't hesitate to voice that. I don't like rumors being spread around that I'm against the school.
Well, having been a selectman, having sat on a school committee, having chaired a finance committee that cut a school budget at which people rushed up and you're against education.
Yeah, some of
No,
it just
I'm
happens.
trying to balance the town budget. So, you know, schools are always a sensitive issue in every community. They're 50, 60, 70% of every tax dollar you usually spend goes to schools. And, you know, when you're on a school committee, you don't really, money is not my problem, that's your problem, okay? My focus
You
is
have to
public.
advocate for the schools. That's what
Right,
you do.
and that's their job, and the job of
I
the selectmen say is, you know what, it's good to advocate, but we have the whole rest of the town to worry about as well, so, you know, developing a great relationship with school folks is one way to, you can still disagree, but people will understand one another, because school folks are from Mars and selectmen are from, you know, because they get to be advocates of one thing.
Right.
And the selectmen have to advocate for everything. And how you balance that as individually and collectively as a board, you know, is called the budget. So I think, is there a way that you could, I'm sorry, did you have, Ed?
No, I was just listening.
Okay. Do you have anything different, or do you think these are fair,
Oh, yes, very fair.
a fair synopsis? So what steps would this board like to take?
I would
Try-
love to see this.
Okay.
I'd like to see that, and I make a pledge that, you know,
So-
we'll
so-
continue not to speak.
Would the other board members think some version of something like that would make
let's
sense?
Look at it. and-
Yeah, I'd have to.
No,
Yeah.
but whether you'd like to at least bring it forth to the board,
Absolutely.
right?
I think it's a good idea, but you have to bear in mind, we have an election within
Yeah, but that does,
2 months, so that.
but whether you do it now,
Could be voted back out again, you know?
yeah, but even if you worked on it and waited till the election, and when the new members came on board, said, hey, we're thinking of doing this, here's your bite at the apple before we adopt it, I mean,
We'll
is
get a
there?
couple of the candidates right now.
Well, I mean, my point is, if you think you want to do it,
I
then,
think it's a great idea. It's just.
and when's the
I hope it's
election?
not April 26th.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you would at least consider it by the end of May?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna be, I'm not running for reelection.
Okay, but I
I mean,
mean,
that gives us
Yeah.
a couple of meetings after the election to contemplate
Well, you don't have
how
to-
we want to run our board for the
Right.
next year, right?
I'm just saying, nothing happens without a deadline and a responsibility of who's going to do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it.
Well, I don't mind putting it into play if we want to do it in the
Yeah,
next
because
month or
the
so,
next
but
board can always.
Well, these are only
revise it.
policies. You can throw every
Yeah.
policy out on
You're
the,
still going to be a citizen, so why can't you advocate for this?
well, I was, all I'm saying is I have a
Yeah.
concern that when
Yeah.
it comes back up again with the new board in here, what's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
happen?
Yeah, we can't worry, we have
But
to
I
keep
mean, we
moving
can-
forward.
we can put a
We have to
target
keep moving forward, Jack.
Yeah.
I would
So
say, yeah, the second,
So if
the end of
you-
May would give us a couple of meetings.
so you'd have a draft by June 1st? A draft?
Yeah,
Is that a fair statement? Whether you vote for it or don't vote for it, you'll put it on an agenda?
I would hope we would have already decided.
Well, that's up to you. I'm just giving you the
Yeah,
outside
use that.
deadline.
That's a good target.
Okay, and is someone
like
going to
to see-
draft one?
I'd like to see it before the election
Yeah, I
to
would
see
too,
how,
but
Well, that's-
test the waters.
That's up
At
to
least we
you.
can discuss it at a meeting, we should put it on the
Well,
agenda.
then, when do you want to put it on your agenda?
Next agenda.
Okay, so when's that?
March-
Tuesday.
Yeah, this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
And
Get it
he's gonna
on that
break the
quick.
deadline.
Today was the
Put it
last
on.
day for agendas.
We already have it
Yeah.
as discussion of your recap of this.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
okay.
So is someone going to draft something?
If
Or are you just going to have to
We
start a
can discuss
discussion?
this.
Okay,
You know.
that's fine.
Yeah, I don't
No
think
sense
we're
in
gonna be,
reinventing the wheel.
we won't, I don't think they'll be at a point where we can adopt something at that
Can
point.
you email it to,
Well, I gave him a hard copy, or you can just go on the Sudbury Code. I
Oh,
mean,
it's
I
up
can,
there?
or I can email it to him, yeah.
Take-
What else can you do? Because if you do this, you get a packet every week, right?
Yeah.
What goes on the top of the packet?
Code of conduct. And as a reminder.
Whether, I don't know if you do email packets or
With
hard,
little red check marks of violating it.
no, but
No.
anything,
No,
any
yeah.
change takes practice. You just don't vote on this, say, okay, all our problems are
Yeah.
solved, everybody's a nice person. It's a weekly reminder, or by, however you meet. And if it's right on top, after a while, eventually a conflict's gonna arise.
Right.
That happens, okay? Okay, how are we going to handle this conflict? In a professional manner with legitimate disagreement on policy and then take the high road? Or are we going to just dive back into the bomb tossing or whatever else goes on?
I don't think in our actual meetings, we do much of that bomb tossing. I think.
Oh, you wait till
our
the
actual-
donut shops?
No, I mean, it happens in the community.
Yeah.
They see CCATV and they see somebody made a statement, one of us made a statement, and they disagree. That may be a little
So-
bit, but we're not seeing the
so-
bombs as much now.
Oh, that's good.
Because of that document that we adopted at, when was it,
Okay.
our last meeting?
So that's his first step, this is
Yeah.
the second step.
Yeah.
But think about yourself as a team, right?
Yeah.
If you were a team and somebody was bad-mouthing one of your members outside of the game, what would you do?
Depends on what they said.
Well, but wouldn't you say, wait a minute, we're a team? Oh, so-and-so blew the game. Well, we all worked the best we could, and, we don't,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you cover, you don't say, you know what, we had a discussion, we made a decision, that's what the board did. So you can make a conscious choice to say, I'm part of a team, I don't always agree with every decision, but I'm not gonna go bad-mouthing my other team members. What does that get you? Animosity, hard feelings? How does it help the citizens of Carver?
It doesn't.
By bad-mouthing another board member? Now, if someone's a total fruitcake, and I've met some of those people, then all bets are off, okay? But 98% of the
You were
people...
doing pretty good, now you just opened up the doors again.
No, but I mean, 98% of the people I've ever worked with, dealt with, been fine, and, there is a couple people, fringe people, that do seem to squeak in every once in a while, but,
Right.
And you just plain gotta listen to them.
and wait till the next election. But, I mean, this doesn't sound like a group to me here,
I think
so...
we just all need to make a commitment to one another that we are gonna at least start with our group
Right.
and do just that. act like a real team, and if people start bad-mouthing one another,
Well, I think that
I mean,
after the election,
yeah,
I think when the two new members come on,
Mhm.
I think the first thing on the agenda is, obviously, do you want to continue with this policy? Have a discussion for 15 minutes about how you're going to treat each other
Mhm.
and what expectations are. And, people, if they give you a word, that you have to take them for what they said.
right.
So have that discussion up front, or have it a month after you started.
Mhm.
But just don't let it slide, and, because things get worse unless you stop them,
Right.
right? Because, somebody's ego gets bent out of shape, or a rumor starts, or, and it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And it's not fun.
I think the one thing I've tried to remember is that the majority of the folks in my town that voted in a person as a selectman.
Right.
There should be some respect by the community for that person that they elected,
Correct.
right from the get-go.
Because you got a 3-year term.
And that's something that you got to keep in mind all the time. This person is now a selectman.
They're equal, too.
This person is a selectman, equal, across the board. So, we might be a real small minority and getting beat up by the town, all 5 of us, at times.
Well, it's the favorite sport. In a small town, it's the favorite sport. Come on.
And you
But-
get pitted against each other.
We do have
But you got to
to,
stop that.
we have
Yeah.
to come together. That's the way it's got to be.
Is there any other things you can think of, or you think that's a good start?
I'm going to bring something up, a real sensitive topic.
Okay.
It's literally hurting my feelings.
Mhm.
I'm a great fundraiser. Everyone knows it because it was out on the blogs that I did such a great fundraiser during my campaign.
For election?
Right.
Okay.
I've shown interest for so long with the Ben Ellis School, and since then the YPAC. I've asked, I've talked, and said that, am I going to be emailed? Can I be involved? And I haven't been asked. And it's like, why are they penalizing me?
Who's they?
Well, the YPAC group, which is
Is
a
it-
group
who are
that
they?
is, obviously not like, I don't want to say, people that didn't vote for
These are
me.
political parties?
Correct.
Or groups? Okay, so there's
And-
local little groups.
Politically involved.
Locally
Yeah.
involved, okay,
Right.
all right.
And I feel like I'm purposely being excluded. When I went to the first few meetings, I vocally said I would love to help out. I'm a good fundraiser. I'd love to help raise money. And
So you're saying there's all Democrats on that board, no
excuse
Republicans?
Jack, I'm not talking Democrat, Republican at all.
But that's beyond this board's control.
Yeah, that has, this,
Well,
this town has
that's-
nothing to
yeah.
do with Democrat, Republican. That's crazy.
No.
As a matter of fact, you and I are friends, and
But how can
we're
this
different
board
parties.
resolve that? That sounds like a personal
Well,
issue.
it's,
There's two
because a couple
members
of the members on
the
this
board
board
of
that are
directors
very involved
at
with YPAC.
YPAC on this board.
Oh, I get it.
Right, so I'm just a little hurt that, I have never done
I-
harm to anybody, and I'm just trying to help the town by helping out the
Okay.
kids.
Okay.
And,
So we may as well, one of the major problem there is that the YPAC program ran into a major stumbling block. And I remember talking to Andy, who's a candidate for selectman, about being on the board of directors. And I think about that time he was deciding to run here, and so he didn't get back to me on it, okay? But we found out that we are not getting that building for nothing. So we had to start trying to scramble to figure out how we were going to do it, and we didn't get a contract until the 1st of March. So we are now finally at a point, and we haven't got any 501c3 information
Status.
back from,
Okay.
so really, Helen, we have never done any outreach yet to all the potential volunteers that we have. None of them, because we just haven't been ready. Now we're we're ready.
So can she
Okay,
come?
so we will be doing outreach. So it's a matter of, we've been trying to get the information out there, but it's very hard because the fellow that was the initiator of the program bought the building,
Right.
gave us the impression that we were gonna be able to use it for nothing. Then he started to try to update the building, and he had to take out a loan for $100,000 because he had to put an elevator in. So the point was that he had to say to us, okay, you can't have it for nothing, you gotta pay $2,000 a month.
But
per
do you, I guess the question is one's political leaning inhibiting fair membership into an organization or fair, because,
There could have been because, but you know what?
Thank you for your
I
honesty.
intentionally reached out to Andy,
yeah,
who's a candidate,
right.
and I think probably Andy's on the conservative place a little
But he's
different
not on
than
the
me.
board, and I'm
But
talking about me.
yeah,
The board-
or
and the-
yourself, but I don't think, that was not in my head. I was just scrambling, trying to
So are you
figure
on the
out-
board?
I'm on the board.
So when's your next board meeting?
Next Thursday?
So do you get to invite her to the meeting?
She's welcome at
There
any
you go.
board
Well, see,
meeting.
and a lot
But
of
we
people-
will outreach,
a
we
lot of
will
people-
reach
A lot
out.
of people are on an email list,
Right.
so you could have had that communication.
But we didn't do,
And that's probably what, and it probably,
Right.
we just
dropped off
got,
the email
we
list
just
and
got a
sent out an email.
computer in the office down there
Okay.
last week.
So you think things are looking
So-
up?
So we will be doing, we have to do much, much more outreach, because we have to do a lot of.
So are you trying to be inclusive
Yeah.
of the whole community?
they originally started out with the Boys and Girls Club. I get emails from them all the time.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too.
So now you're trying to broaden
Because
this.
they
Well, we started with the
So-
want to take
idea,
advantage of the
Okay.
we
volunteers.
started with the idea of being an extension of the Boys and Girls Club from Plymouth.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden, we were informed that we had to put up a huge amount of money in our minds to be affiliated with a national
So you're trying to
organization.
get away from it.
And we didn't have that kind of money.
Okay.
And
So-
I don't, maybe Sarah can
So,
kick in, but the point was, is we are just now getting up to speed to consider an activity program
Okay.
and all our volunteers.
so to close this out, your organization's not about conservative or liberal, it's about raising funds to help the community.
It's
And
kids.
everybody,
Kids at risk, which would
but
include
everybody's
them
invited.
And anybody.
Is everybody invited to the
Yeah.
table?
May
Yeah,
I
go ahead. I don't know.
It's a private organization.
Oh, okay, okay.
Has nothing to
Oh, it's
do
not
with the town.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Okay,
And those kinds of decisions are up to the board of directors,
okay.
as well as the
So I
executive
thought
director.
it was a town.
Has nothing to do
Well,
with the
it
town.
started out
Okay.
that they
I
invited
didn't know
everyone
that.
that wanted to come from the
Yeah,
town.
Oh,
they
okay.
originally invited everybody in
And you
the
signed
town.
up to get an email.
So it's almost, it's no different than a YMCA in the sense
That's
of
correct.
broad directors and they invite people.
Correct.
Okay.
And it just so happens that most of the people involved are politically active in the town.
Well, they're also active in a lot of other things. Okay.
Small
It's only a
town,
small
not many
group of
people.
Okay. What else do we got to talk about on this topic? If not, we're going to move on to
Yeah. I need-
I
goals.
think it
Know
was
that it's
just a-
relevant.
Okay.
I'm glad I had the chance to explain a little more in detail to Helen on what was going on there.
Okay. So I think, you passed that
See,
and
civility.
there you go. It's okay to pat yourselves on the back once in a while.
Yeah.
Compliment somebody after, during a meeting and say, hey, I really appreciate, even if there's a disagreement.
That's why I thank him for his honesty.
There you go. So I asked the board, now we're getting to kind of the guts of all this. What are the five biggest, what are the biggest things that you need to accomplish? And I kind of broke it down to some things that, and I wasn't really sure on some of them, but some of them, the vast majority at the end of the day had to do with money. And the other ones were, policy decisions. So I kind of put because I don't really know, one's a bylaw, one's training, one's a committee, and one's a policy. And then the rest, more or less, talked about money in one way or another. Surprise, surprise, okay? So I think the issue is, do you want to talk about money first, or you want to talk about policy first?
Let's start at
It
the
doesn't
top
matter.
and-
Okay,
way
so,
down.
and these were not put in, I got this from everybody, I don't know who put what in, I just collated it all, it's not word for word, I got the theme down, so if somebody said, well, you left out this word, that was not my intent, I was just trying to get the thought down on all of these. And in some cases, many people put the same, like the fire station came up several times on folks or other ones. So if you want to start at the top, solar bylaw. I don't know anything about it, but knock yourselves out. Who wants to do it? How do you do it?
Well-
Can we do it?
I brought that up in terms of there's a huge issue in town right now where there's a big group of residents that feel like they've been very hurt by the Board of Selectmen, all the other committees, Planning Board, et cetera. And I think that we need to,
By solar panels?
yeah, a solar field was put, a solar farm was placed out in their backyard. It's a long story.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, it's not there.
It's not there yet.
It was
Okay.
proposed, yeah.
It's not there yet.
Go ahead, okay.
but It's on hold right now, but it's going to be there. So I think in, representing the residents, I think as a board, that we should at least put that as one of our priorities to at least revisit the solar bylaw, talk about it, and see if there's anything that we can do to,
Is it a zoning bylaw or a general bylaw?
the zoning bylaw.
Okay.
And then we
Planning board.
create, yeah.
Okay.
And I just really think that we should put this on the forefront because the solar is becoming a very big issue in the town of Carver. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I do. I just want to make it really clear that the project in question was proposed and approved before the town had a solar bylaw.
Okay.
So it was an allowed use by right.
Right, okay.
And so what's been happening now is there's been some negotiations to try and make the project actually conform to our solar bylaw.
Okay.
But it doesn't have, they're
Right,
not
right,
required.
right, okay.
So we're hoping that they will, knock
Okay.
on wood.
And since then, the town, at the town meeting, adopted a zoning bylaw and...
That's correct.
And is it an overlay or can...
It's the whole town.
The whole, so, okay. And so you're trying to see if it's worth discussing if there should be any parameters other than currently
Changes,
exist?
right, exactly.
So you're looking for a discussion at the board level, would it involve the planning board or
Well,
just?
it would have to, being a zoning bylaw.
Right, no, but I mean, from
Yeah,
a
but just to
discussion
bring it to the
perspective.
forefront,
Right.
that maybe that they should be
Okay, so-
revisiting it and bring it to town meeting, so the residents and the rest of the town, now that this has happened,
So-
one neighborhood, more people may be interested in attending the sessions to learn more about what the solar,
So this would be obviously something, your town meeting's around the corner, I assume.
well, it wouldn't be this town.
So it'd be a year from now or
We
special.
we had a bylaw committee that
Right.
put this together. They worked on it for like
Right.
a year or so.
Okay.
Right.
And then the town was able, the building inspector stopped it, and went into court. So I think it's still sitting in court now, so it's
Right.
kind of hard
Was
to
it
discuss.
approved by the Attorney General?
The bylaw?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's not what Jack's
Right.
talking about. He's talking about the project.
Oh, the project.
Project
Okay,
itself.
so I guess, is there a consensus among the board whether this should get revisited?
Well, I always think it's a good idea to revisit bylaws, but on the other hand, the one we have now, this particular project
Doesn't
doesn't come under
conform,
that.
right.
Everything else does.
Right.
And it's a pretty strict bylaw, considering what we've read, but
Okay, so is it revisit or more public education you're looking at?
You want to revisit it to help those people,
So
I-
would,
Right. I would like to see it revisited and discussed, education, and then to town meeting, because again,
but the revisit might ultimately say,
That's if
we
they-
like it. They might not want to change
and
it,
it's not going to affect this project.
right?
no,
Well-
it won't affect this project, there's no,
Right, right.
but we do represent the citizens.
No, no, right.
So overall, it has received so much attention throughout Carver now, that when it was originally happening, people were busy working and not really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people didn't go to town meeting. So they didn't know really what was going on. So to support the residents, I just feel that it would be important to bring it back on the table, to, have the planning board or what have you, and bring that solar bylaw committee back, and just have more discussions. Say, do we want to keep it the way it is? Should we possibly consider tweaking it a little bit? What lessons have we learned from what happened at the Great Meadow? And then allow these people to be able to come to town meeting educated now about what was going on.
Unfortunately, when it first came up, the bylaw committee, it was almost apparent that something was going to be going in that whole neighborhood.
Okay.
And that's most of the people that came up
Well, there's some-
came
it
from that
was-
neighborhood.
right.
So I mean,
So do you
even
want-
though we revisit it, how many people we're gonna get from the rest of the town?
So the
look
question
at this.
before the board is, do you want to put it on a future agenda or don't you? And if you
Well, I
do,
think it's good to do that.
I would not be opposed to that.
so
A
would you,
discussion on it, I.
so would you put it on?
If there were a way to make it, the bylaw
Would you put it
better,
on agenda
I
in,
would.
in June or May, or obviously,
Well, I think you wanted to hit this town meeting, though. right?
no way.
No way.
You can't meet the legal
But thank
statute,
you
I
for,
mean-
no, we would never have time.
So
to get
when
it.
would you want to put it on a board, invite the planning board, or go to them, or
Well-
start the discussion?
I mean, I think we should allow the election to take place and then possibly talk about having the new board talk about maybe reinstating that solar bylaw committee.
So you want it on the
Start there.
agenda in May?
I don't want to speak for everybody.
I think
Well, I'm
you
asking
have-
it.
Yeah,
I don't,
I know, nobody's answering, so
I
yeah.
think you should do it before the summer.
Right, so May or April, well,
May or
April
June.
26th
Have
is
it
the
as one
election.
of the discussion items at one of our meetings.
After the new board's elected, get
Yeah,
a new planning
exactly.
board in.
so I'm just gonna, should I put May or June, or May, or?
May?
I don't, don't man put words in my, I don't work here.
The first
It
week in
depends
May.
on how heavy loads we
Let's put
have.
down May, and then we can always.
Yeah, we can-
move it
Okay.
all if need be.
All right.
Okay, annual training on lots of stuff. Excuse
We
us.
do that anyway, don't we? No, we don't
Somebody
do it
was
annually?
talking about an ethics presentation or something from town council.
I think that's a great
Town
idea.
I did
council
that.
Well,
does.
what about,
Every
well,
year, we should have something
How-
that just refreshes everyone's mind.
so on open meeting, conflict of interest, ethics. Now, on procurement, Michael, who does the procurement? Is it centralized or
Procurement
decentralized
officer.
It's decentralized, and we're trying to get people trained to that.
to 30B? And
Yes.
so,
But you're the chief
but is there
procurement officer.
is there a centralized set of purchasing standards or people that
There are
hasn't?
none. It's.
Oh,
there's a lot
okay,
of
so there's a
stuff
lot of gaps then,
That goes
okay.
through that's exempt, so a lot of things are using state
I
contracts
still
or.
think it's good, I mean, you don't have
Under
to
the
have an
radar.
in-depth.
No, what I was trying to
The
suggest.
procurement, The Inspector General has a little course that they teach.
Right, but I was going to suggest that ethics, public records, open meeting, conflict of interest is one item, whereas the procurement issue could be a separate one, because they're not really the same. So you could bring the inspector general or someone down to meet with the 12 people that do 80% of the purchasing.
I think it's good for public officials to understand.
Oh, if you want to
General
understand.
overview of it.
But I think your town attorney could give you a general overview, but if you want to get to more nuts and bolts,
That's what I was talking about.
Okay, so
not the
you-
nuts and bolts.
okay, so
Because
you,
let's face it, the people that are involved in it inherently all the time, they're gonna be taking courses
so
at the Inspector General.
ethics,
keeping up their-
public record, conflict of interest,
So what we're really doing is
Right.
almost doing a training for the new board of selectmen.
but you're talking about everybody.
Yes.
So you're talking about everybody that you appoint to come, right?
Yeah,
Like,
any elected or appointed town official
okay,
should try and make themselves available to go to it. And I mean, you can almost run it with other towns and have it on different dates, because some people can't make it.
well, I think the other issue, if you had it and you had it on cable, maybe an official that couldn't make it, could at least watch it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just a matter of getting it organized. Would you do that in September, or would you do that right after the election? What would be a timeline, and who would set it up?
What's happening is that we're piling everything up in
Yeah.
June.
No, it doesn't mean you can't do
May,
something in
June.
September, October, no, I'm just,
July and August don't
No.
end up being
yeah, no one wants to come to a meeting in July.
Time when you can get everybody together. September, that's something that I would think would be beneficial to all the committees and all the boards, offering it to them, because we all have to sign a letter
Yeah.
every year, and then every 2 years now, we're doing a training.
So do all the
Session.
board and committee members too. They have to go
So
through the
if,
training.
and we're talking about town council running it because it's a nuts and bolts thing.
Yeah,
And they have an expert that does that for the town.
What's good about it, there are a lot of nuances, especially in the conflict of interest law, that if you
Yeah.
don't dig down, you could inadvertently get yourself in a lot of trouble through no intended malice. And so if you don't know those things, so I think if you're going to have a workshop, I would try to get as many public appointed and elected officials and even employees, but they don't have to come, And maybe do it in the fall, when.
Yeah, fall's a good time.
think
Everybody's
that would be a-
regenerating.
I think that would be a good thing to do.
There's no downside to it. I mean,
Yeah.
the last thing you want to read in the newspaper is so-and-so violated. Well, I didn't know, or the
You know,
committee
you
didn't
get someone
post.
that's volunteering their time.
Right.
They get nailed by the ethics
Right,
commission.
right, because
Ethics violation.
lack of knowledge. So I think this is a great
You know,
idea.
every time there's a scandal on Beacon Hill and make up all these new rules, I don't even think they're subject to them.
Absolutely not. Right.
And they don't
They suffer
always
the
think,
consequences.
Okay.
they don't always think of a small town
Right.
with some.
Well, there are a couple of differences in ethics if you're under 5,000, but you're over 5,000,
We rely
so.
on volunteers and then have.
Oh, yeah,
you
but
know,
I mean,
get caught up in
you
something.
know, I'm a farmer.
Yeah.
And for me to have to take this test and everything, I'm saying, oh, man,
Yeah.
how much do I
Just
get for
couldn't-
being a selectman?
As much as you get for being a farmer.
When you get
So-
up, you can go and
So how
Well,
about,
sometimes I'm a little bit frustrated with what everything is expected. of
No, I
me
know.
in term- But anyway.
How about, the
I
web-
would- I would support that.
so September, just put it down. Web committee.
That's a little
I
bit.
like
of a
your
sim-
website, by
yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
I think that almost falls under the town administrator.
Yeah, and we're talking about, the website is now up and running, so.
It's virtual
that-
town hall.
That was one of the reasons.
No, it's not
why-
virtual town hall.
Oh, it's not? What is it?
Trouble is, you can't
what?
leave it forever floating by itself.
Who runs it?
The
The website committees
has.
And do you have a budget?
rewrote it, no.
So
They
who
did
runs
it
it?
for free.
And did they update it for free?
They did.
Well, it's set up, isn't it, so each committee, chairman of a committee.
So it's
can
homegrown,
put
good for you.
input.
We have an IT audit going on right now.
Okay.
It's going to address how to, this piece going forward.
Okay,
And
okay. So is that,
This is another sensitive topic, again, full disclosure, is, I was a proponent from, private sector experience in terms of one person running a website. It happens to be Sarah's husband, so I think,
Right.
like rightfully so, she, there's going to be tension, because here I am proposing that I think the website committee had done its job, and that it's dangerous to have one person, and you have to put who's in that position at the time, but it's very dangerous. It cost two of my companies that I've worked for in the past thousands of dollars for having one programmer, and we had been on a canned system, which,
Was useless.
so what's the issue? What does the committee have to do?
well, and that's what I'm saying, well, because,
Why does the committee have to be involved? Sounds like a selectman's,
well, exactly.
Discussion.
And
When we
that's
were doing
the-
a town administrator search, I'm probably the one that everyone's mad at. I put it on the agenda to disband it until we got a new town administrator. and then
Right.
Let him do what he wants to do.
so did he get,
Obviously, he's doing an audit now, so let's see what
Right.
happens.
so is the issue just put this on hold,
Yeah.
for 6
Yeah.
months, or, I'm asking?
Leave it up to the town administrator, see what
or-
comes up. We're
Yeah.
throwing the ball at his lap.
Well, no, because he's already working on
If he
it.
wants to
So,
reestablish it.
is
We're
this
looking-
coming off the
Did
list?
we
Is it
table
just
it,
gonna
or
be
did we disband
on the hold?
We
Is it
disbanded
gonna-
it.
Is he gonna report back in 9
It's on
months?
the
I don't,
town administrator.
what's the,
I think we should wait for the town
Yeah.
administrator's audit.
Yeah.
well, okay,
Technology.
Because
so,
we're looking at all the technology
right, so is that
now.
6 months, 6 years? I don't know.
What
A
do you
year,
think,
Mike?
Mike?
it'll be, we'll have that
Don't
on the
undersell.
25th.
That's too soon. So so this will be back in front of folks in next month?
Yeah, we have the audit to be done for
Okay.
discussion.
But that's just the beginning of discussion,
That's just
right?
discussion, yeah.
No, is this on top of the audit that was already done?
That was just for the school side.
Gotcha, okay.
This is how to consolidate all the town technology.
Oh, that's right, you had mentioned that to me.
Also to have redundancy built into the system, et
That's
cetera.
Or you
right.
could
So
do
put
it,
down April.
so, okay, so you could do it like us and have the town and school have just one system. What a
And that's
concept.
what we're talking about now, is
I
the
think that's
bigger,
what's been happening.
yeah, we're talking about
You know,
the bigger picture now with
so-
the technology.
I just read,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I'm a proponent of regionalization. I just read that Abington and Whitman are going to have a regionalized veteran services.
Yeah, that, you'll see more in that.
Yeah.
Okay, April, policies, recycling, streetlight, and executive minutes. I've just lumped them all into one. I don't know what the recycling, streetlight, and executive minutes policies are, or do you have them?
This was one of mine.
Okay.
Actually, recycling wasn't there, it was energy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, we had sort of a loose energy policy. We had a pretty clear streetlight policy, and we voted for an executive minutes policy.
Okay.
And sort of nothing's happening.
So they haven't been put into place? Are they actually written in?
The executive minutes policy is, the streetlight policy is. I don't believe the energy one was. That, as I said,
And
that
is
was
every-
looser.
And these are board policies?
They were.
And are they in a policy manual?
I don't know. I
Oh,
would
if you don't know,
defer to
then
the town
what?
I don't think we
administrator's
got a
office.
manual. I think we
What?
just voted them. That's a good idea to have.
Well, they were written on a piece of paper.
So there's two things. You need to have a beginning of a little policy booklet, and then usually if you adopt a policy, I always suggest that you have a sunset provision, so at least forces you to
Look at it again.
either annual, biannual, whatever, so, because, oh, that's our policy from 47 years ago. Well, the world's changed, but,
Well, I guess I was specifically talking about actually implementing them.
well, no, so I'm getting to that. So first is have a policy, make sure everybody knows what it is.
Right.
And then who's responsible for implementing them under the policy? Do you know? Does the policy say so-and-so, or this committee, or this board, or,
I don't think it says.
so it's generic?
The street lighting.
So what's an example in this?
Selectmen, wasn't it?
What was the streetlight policy as an
So
example?
that-
Well, we went through.
Who gets one?
Thing, and we decided that there needed to be an assessment on the streetlights in town, because there were seemingly a lot, and we bought our own streetlights.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, we did that. It's a good deal.
Then we were saying, okay, now if you go down the street, there's an awful lot of streetlights that make you wonder why they're there.
Because somebody
They cost
35
money.
years ago
Yeah.
called up and said, can I have a
Right.
street light? And they said,
Or
yeah.
one of them was at
Right.
an intersection. There's a nice big maple tree, and it works great in the winter and the fall and the spring, but the leaves come out, you can't even see it.
So what's the policy,
Yeah.
So the
meant to
policy-
accomplish?
Well, the policy ended up being something that we needed input from the police and the fire and the public safety people, and then
By the
looking
time
at
you
the
get done,
economics, and then
you
thinking
have
about the
next
neighborhoods.
election.
So what you really need one is someone,
But
is
we
a
were
comp-
We
gonna.
did get a policy,
this-
though.
Yeah,
But
but
no
I
one's-
mean, to assess it and bring it before the selectmen with a series of lights that could be shut off.
a
didn't
game plan.
So the policy
So-
was essentially, we'd leave the only ones we'd leave on were the ones at intersections.
Or hills or curves or
Bad
something.
That would be the
curves,
policy, okay.
dangerous places
Well,
that the safety
we-
departments.
Well, we have
pointed out.
that,
And then the other ones would
hill
get-
curves,
That makes
intersections, yeah, we have a written policy or standard, and then, so what you
no-
really need is a group of people to go out and do the assessment.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's been mapped too, so we could do it that way as well.
Right, on
But
right.
nobody has gone out and said, well, this one we don't need.
So-
No, but I mean, you could see the curves and
But who's
intersections on the
gonna,
map.
so who's supposed to do that?
Well, we have the map.
Someone's supposed to come to the Board of
Right.
Selectmen with a recommendation, is that a
Right.
fair statement or not?
No, the board has a policy, actually.
So
These
do you
lights will be
think-
cut off
Yeah,
and
but
these
who's
lights
gonna
Yeah,
won't.
but who's going to
Who's
do
gonna
it?
take the
Within
policy and do the
who's-
leg-
I'll do it. You want me to do it? I'll do it, man. I'll do it. I'd be happy to do it. I've been waiting to do it for years.
But
So
we
that
haven't-
means
we just
disconnecting
haven't-
streetlights that have been someplace for 40 years, 20 years?
Well, and I think
Move-
part of the assumption, and I don't know if this ever made it into writing, was that we would talk to these people. We're not just going to hit them over the head with their streetlights going out tomorrow. There has to be some kind of neighborly.
You wait for them to go on vacation.
No.
So
there's a
there's a
lot of
public
people
note,
broken.
so there's a public
So-
notice, are you gonna do?
Yeah,
it-
some sort of public
But is
notice.
it gonna be by, we're gonna do a quarter of town at a time, the whole town at a time?
Well, we haven't really talked about that. We haven't talked about it at
I
all.
think we need to,
So-
I think we need to talk as a,
Group.
because this was a
Yeah.
year
So
or two ago.
This needs to go back on the
So we
agenda.
need
Yeah.
to
So that's what really you're
bring it up
asking
to
for?
date and talk about
Okay.
it, and
And when,
make a procedure.
so what would be a good, this sounds like a good August deal.
Gee, thanks.
Well, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
you
we
tell me.
have, we're gonna have at least one meeting
We
in
had a lot
August.
of meetings.
No, so my point is,
Yeah,
Energy
we
be
did.
blended in with streetlights?
Oh, man.
Or is energy, you're
Yeah,
thinking
more
of
meetings
having a
than we normally
separate
do. That's
right.
policy?
Every
Well, yeah, that's a good question.
Also,
what, guys, one at a time, when do you wanna deal with the,
We're working as a team.
yeah, right.
We're all talking
But-
at once.
Talking together.
And we
That's
want
right.
to.
That's right.
Just kidding.
Yeah, well,
It's a common issue between all four of us.
when do you want to discuss this?
Right, making progress.
That's, here you go. What-
July.
I don't care, pick a date.
Is that a good time?
Yeah.
So that's July for
We
streetlights.
we probably are going to end up wanting to have one meeting in July. So this may be
You always have
a
one.
major issue
Okay, so
for the July. meeting.
Energy, next
always have
issue.
a
And you have someone committed to do it, which is even better.
There you go.
Energy.
So
Yeah.
the energy was a little more sort of wishy-washy, but it primarily, I think, pertained to policies that had to do with town buildings. Do you remember that? I mean, people were supposed to shut off lights when they weren't, I mean, just really
Ah,
basic
okay.
stuff. We have recycling in the town buildings. They're really, really supposed to do
So
it.
it sounds to me that's on the same agenda.
Yeah,
Right?
I guess it could be. I don't know. It might be separate.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean,
Well, the discussion,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
would be.
streetlights could be
That's
a
energy, but-
component of energy.
Well, it kind of is, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, so energy would be the policy, maybe revise what you've already done,
Yeah.
and have energy be the main policy, and then streetlights be.
or is that too big of a
component
conversation for the same night?
It may be.
It may be.
because,
So when do you want to pick that date? If the committee is agreeable.
September.
I don't know, these guys might not want to run for office with all the stuff that's going on. They're going to be busy.
Well,
What about
Well, yeah,
August?
welcome to our world.
that's what I was going to say. We
Yeah,
do the
nobody's around in
streetlight talk
August.
about it.
Yeah,
So in
August.
July, and
So
then August,
September.
we fill in the rest of the energy
September.
concerns.
How
September?
about September? Dick?
September's already,
September.
wait, take more.
Okay, executive session.
That was essentially, if I remember correctly, it was a vote that when an issue that had been discussed in executive session was over,
Right.
on the next agenda, we would vote on the executive session minutes so that they would be public.
Right. And
I
that
don't
just
think we
slips.
have a set of public executive session minutes in the whole 4 years that I've been a selectman.
Yeah.
So there's a big backlog?
Yeah, and
And
there are
it's tough
issues that
'cause-
have been finished for
Yeah.
years, and people need to know
So,
what
and you don't
went
even know
on.
if they were written?
Oh, I'm sure they were written, they had to take minutes.
Oh, so they just have to come forward?
It's just never been a discussion with this Board of Selectmen. The-
No.
The executive session minutes policy happened in some
But
previous
my point
years.
is, it sounds to me like you have 27 executive session minutes that need to be brought forth and voted on.
It could
And
well
then-
be.
Whatever the number is. And then going forward, as you well know, an executive session minute, it might not be released for 2.5 years, depending
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you're in a legal matter, or
Right,
you're,
yep.
but anything.
Those weren't the ones we were talking
So
about.
So somebody needs to go through all these, vet them, see if the issues involved are done, and bring them for a vote. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
And I don't think there's any urgency in that, so I don't want to dump on the staff either. But
Well,
it's just
can we
something
make a
it's
commitment?
been
Let's-
forgotten.
Let's do it this
That's
way,
my
unless anybody objects. Going forward, we'll keep up to date, and you give everybody 6 or 9 months to get the backlog,
Yeah, and I think we should start with
or
most
something? I'm
recent
just throwing
first.
out an idea
The
here.
problem
Obviously,
is you got 2 members going off the board. What if you only had
but that,
3 there?
but that's a
You can't
staff,
approve it.
that doesn't matter. You know what? The issue is,
Ran into
it
that.
doesn't matter whether you approve it or not, it's a public record.
Yeah.
Once the event that instigated it is no longer relevant. It's a public record by law. You don't even have to vote on it. I mean, you want to, but,
Right,
um,
exactly.
No, I don't.
well, okay, but, so the point is, well, your suggestion is, bring the policy to the forefront, let's start doing it, and then give people reasonable time to catch up with the backlog.
Right.
And
So
so-
there's a public record that people
Right,
can
and so
see.
what's the backlog? What do you, does anybody know how big the backlog is?
I think it's 2 or 3 years anyhow.
So someone have to go through and read
I think
each
it's
one of
more than
those?
Really?
What?
I suspect it's more than that, but I don't know for sure.
But you'd have to be in part, I mean, if someone wasn't at the meeting, just reading it doesn't, you'd have to know, I mean, some issues would be obvious. If you
Yeah,
had
some of-
collective bargaining matters and the contract signed,
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If you had a lawsuit and that's signed,
Some of them are probably, some of them we'd probably never be able to vote on, I guess, because some of them may have happened before, like, any of us were there.
doesn't matter, you can vote to release them. It doesn't mean you have to vote to
That-
approve them, you vote to release them.
That was the main point of that policy.
Right, vote to release them.
But then again, some might be that you can never release.
Of course, but that's not what we would be
Yeah, if
voting
it was a
on.
personnel matter that,
Yeah.
so,
Of course.
so to respond to the question, who would take on that effort to go through each set of executive session minutes since you were founded?
The guy with the guy with the highest vote in the next election. We'll give it to him.
Actually, Jack, with you getting off and being on the board for a while, you've got the history of some of these things. So you actually have the most context to quickly go
And the most
through
time.
figure out which.
Oh, so you're still trying to keep me involved after I get out of here?
No, but before the end of your term, I think if we can get you to review a portion of them and.
It will have to be after April 15th
No, that's true, we got taxes going on.
on the CPAs.
Let me ask you a question. Can you just grab the last 3 years and split them up?
Yeah.
Or I mean, because,
We could do that.
All right, we'll do that.
Pick a certain.
you know, what, you take 1 year, you take,
Yeah.
and, I mean, at some point, you can't go back 15 years because no one cares, but
Right.
you got to make a good effort to get up to
Right.
what you think is the, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you split it up, it wouldn't be such a burden.
Yeah,
You just got to dig them out and print them up. Are they online? Well, no, those wouldn't be online.
That
They'd be.
works.
Mike would have to pull it together.
So
They're probably online, aren't they?
no, those wouldn't be. So could you,
Shit.
would everybody take a bite of the apple?
Yeah, absolutely.
And do that in the next, when's the election, April?
April 26th.
Get them done by the end of April? Would that be okay, Mike?
You didn't tell us we were going to have homework.
Yeah, no,
Well, I did that 2 months ago.
Yes, you
Jeff
did.
sent the homework.
Yeah, there you go.
okay, so
So you'll give us the
April.
minutes to,
And we probably wouldn't have done it unless we got threatening emails from.
No, but
Elaine or
It's just,
Michelle.
it's the right thing to do, so.
It is the right thing to do.
And they tend to slip, because you know what, the thing, and then 2 years goes by, and you even forgot you even had the meeting. So, you're not unique in this, put it that way. Okay. Anybody got anything general policy before we get into money?
Is look at all the work we gotta do, we're only on item 4, and it's
Okay.
what, 12?
Well, you know what? That's the joy of being on this job. Okay, the first two were very generic. Maintain the quality of life. I don't know if that had a specific task in mind or goal in mind, or it was just a general statement. So, unless anybody wants to elaborate on that, we would go by that.
Well, I think that,
I mean,
you know,
no
we
one
were talking
disagrees
about
with it.
cranberries earlier,
Right.
and I know that the industry is in trouble,
Yeah.
and that is our main industry.
Okay, that's listed on the next page. We haven't got
Okay.
to.
Oh, never
I
mind.
didn't see
So-
that.
Well, I haven't given it out. You know what? I only do things one at a time. I don't want to overwhelm you. There's a lot
And
more work.
It is something that I think there's a record of surveys going back maybe 30 years or so that indicate that that is something that people value about Carver, the
Yep.
rural character.
And it's on the list. So if we come back to that while we go on this, keep going here.
Sure.
Improve public safety, does that mean more cops, more firemen, but safer roads,
Probably
more
more
streetlights? No, what,
well, that's, I was thinking that when we were talking about streetlights, here we're involved
Is
in
that just a
chatting about
general
public
statement, or
safety, and we're
did
gonna
someone-
shut the
There's
lights off.
been an increased heroin issue
Yeah.
in
Oh,
town, just like
yeah.
all the other
everywhere,
areas.
yeah.
And through attrition and budget cuts, the detectives are now part-time, they don't have a full-time detective.
Right.
So the selectmen, in their budget guidance, wanted to hire a detective.
Okay.
And also a school resource officer. I believe-
So that's a budgetary policy matter. Is that going to be contained in the
Yeah.
budget?
Should.
Has the board voted on that?
No,
They
not
did.
yet.
Well,
But we
no, they
voted to
budgeted
do
the
it.
policy,
We haven't voted.
to include it.
So you're going to include it. So this is going to happen as a matter of course, and then ultimately the board and the town meeting will make a decision. So this is, the train's already left the station on this one.
Yes, it has.
All right, but you know what? Write it down, because you know what? Here's a little secret. Every time you accomplish something, keep a list. Because you know what? A lot of time goes by and you forget all the good things you did for the town. So this is just in the works, right?
Right.
Because when you have a workshop next year and you say, what did you accomplish? You can say, hey, we hired a resource, if it works. Okay. The next one, obviously, a lot of this is going to go to the TA, the finance people, yada, yada, yada. So Mike, maybe you can comment. I don't know who put this on, but I kind of consolidated a lot of this into,
I put
Sure.
some.
The board did adopt financial management policies last month.
yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So those have gone forward. It covers a lot of these items. We've also created a OPED committee,
Okay,
which will deal with the unfunded liabilities.
good luck.
47 million.
I was 89, so.
We got double.
And as part of those policies, this is all part of the policies.
So are they all, the policies in place?
The policies are in place. We're now working with the school committee to adopt them, then run that through the finance committee, and
comments,
then put it on as an article for town meeting and
Okay.
have them adopt it.
And what about the school-town ratio? Somebody, that's a never-ending debate.
I brought that
But
up.
that, is that in the policy, or is that just a,
It's in the policy. We haven't defined the number just yet, but there has been a history of what it is, and it's 70.
70, 30, thereabouts.
Yeah,
Sometimes it goes up.
72.
does that get
Sometimes
reviewed
it's
annually,
71.
or?
It does not get reviewed annually, but we are working with the superintendent to go through the budget process right now.
So is there any work to be done on this, or any follow-up, or any, is the
There's been no
board?
formal policy, but the prior town administrator with the superintendent, they kind of worked it out
Yeah.
ahead of time even.
I would say
Now,
number 7 is
formalized.
going to be completed through the budget process.
Right.
So May, June,
Yeah, May.
May?
But in terms of that, in terms of creating the long-term financial budget, I know that when I was on the finance committee, Andy,
Right.
I don't know if you, but there's always been a wish list to go back to zero-based budgeting,
Yeah,
and
doesn't work.
it would never work.
It's a
No.
great term politically, but
You know what?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to, you know
We
what?
talked about the
In,
finance committee meeting.
in the sense that, you know, having done this for 35 years, I've been through every new budget, acronym that comes along, but at the end of the
It
day.
won't happen.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, when you look, I'll just pick, you have a town clerk, right?
Yeah.
Town clerk's budget goes up a little every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything she does or he does is a statutory requirement. So,
That's pretty fair.
so the only thing you can argue about is how many hours you're gonna have the place open when you cut to the chase, because you gotta do births, records, dogs, marriage, yada, yada, yada. So when you say zero-based budget, you can go through the process, but at the end of the day, that's this much of the town of Carver's budget. It's school, public safety, public education, where is 90% of your dollars going? 5 places, right? That's where the effort, I mean, not you don't give up on the little ones, but they're not gonna make or break the quality of life of your community.
and those big departments' budgets are dictated by your union contract, so.
Well, yes and no, but also size, and you can always, as you negotiate from time to time, you can change those, but,
You have things that go up that you have no control
yeah,
over.
health insurance.
I mean,
Both
energy
pension.
costs, gasoline.
I know you guys in
propane
Plymouth
to
County
heat
had a
the town
pension.
hall,
Right, but you
all
take
those
that
things,
into consideration when you're
Well,
doing
if you're
it.
zero budgeted, then something else has to, if that is gonna automatically go up, then you gotta take it from someplace else,
Yeah,
and then you end up,
all our backs against the wall. You're not
right.
unique. Unless with Swellesley or a couple other communities that, override tomorrow, override the next day, here override, everywhere. Most communities that, hey, struggling to get by and,
Well, even with the budget policy on adding in the 2 police positions,
That's a
there is
lot.
no extra capacity in new revenue, because the new revenue is hit by all the fixed costs that
Right,
come.
right.
So we're going to have to either reduce positions, layoffs, reduce hours,
We'll get-
or do some reorganization.
Right.
So it's going to have its own form of repurposing the budget based upon new priorities.
In just a different
So
way.
things that were priorities before are going to have to be relooked
Right.
at.
Right, and I'll give you an example, where, when we consolidated school and municipal facilities, they had lawnmowers, we had lawnmowers, they had trucks, we had
We
trucks.
brought them together.
We had a lot more
Right.
big toys than they had. So, I mean,
So it'll happen through this process.
if
anyway,
that's,
but just in a
that's an
different way.
example, or if
Yeah.
it's IT is an example, or if it's, there are a lot of ways that, but those are a lot of times a big political fight, because you have history, tradition, egos, appointed elected officials, and they're all
And Town
afraid.
meeting can be stacked so well.
Yeah.
You can stack it and get what you
So,
want to get.
you'd say 7 is May.
May.
Anybody got anything else to add on that? Okay. Sounds like you need a new school, or a fixed one, or something?
We can put all 3 of these together,
Yeah.
because we need all 3 of them.
You do, and I know you have a fire station committee, is there a school, get the MSBA, so you must have a committee for that?
School, Yep, school and
And-
fire.
And police,
Has it moved forward yet?
there's no
It's on the
committee,
back
no.
burner right
well, we kinda had a.
And this is
informal
replacement,
schedule
or
on it.
are these all replacements? I mean, you're replacing an
Yeah.
elementary because it's old or
Yeah.
something?
We're
or-
hoping to build some of it new and renovate some of
Okay,
it.
but,
Yeah, but yes,
okay, so, and And you just got where are you in the MSBA
We
process?
just got invited, so.
Okay, so you're 5 years away.
Well, we were invited 3 times in a row, so hopefully this time they'll,
Oh, you didn't get the vote?
we got the vote, it got turned down,
By,
the people who voted.
no, so the citizens voted down
They
the,
voted
Correct.
down.
oh, okay, so you put a debt exclusion on MSB, oh, so you weren't able to fund the MSB?
Correct.
Okay.
We had a non-binding in that field, too.
So this is this going back to the voters again? For the-
Hopefully.
Eventually, yes.
At what point?
When we find
When
a
they-
sensible
Yeah,
plan that
right.
we can all work with.
So it was
That's
a,
in
it was a
the-
debate
that's
about
in the
need or
works right
cost?
now.
Well, it's,
The need's there.
That's
We're not
under
about
bio-
the need,
okay.
It's about the
It's
cost
making
of
it
the
work.
project.
And so the committee's reworking it?
They will be.
So is there any role for anybody here, or you just have to wait?
No, the selectmen have provided the authority for me to appoint the committee, so they've done that, and I'm going to be announcing the committee next week.
Okay, so that's going to take its own course, because it's only going as fast as you can go,
they
okay?
prescribe the
So,
process.
so that's just ongoing, right?
Exactly, yes.
Fire station?
Same
Same
issue.
thing,
Okay,
That one
ongoing.
has funding,
Oh, it does?
yes.
You replacing one? Or adding
Brand
one?
new.
brand new.
Oh, good.
Well, it's replacing one, really. The one that's
Yeah,
there
we-
is old and.
Yeah, we replaced a
It
90-year-old
has
one.
funding,
So,
so
Yeah, it's
but it
good.
until we
might
get to
be
town meeting,
on a different
then
side.
we'll see what happens.
Well, are you looking for a bond authorization?
Not yet.
Oh, so what,
But we have,
you study
We-
funding?
we have-
You have money
we
to
have-
study, you mean, or?
we have this concept that we take personal property new growth and put it into a fund.
Oh, and you're adding it up?
But it gets voted to put in there every year.
So it sounds like you have no bonding
No,
capacity?
actually, town meeting authorized the borrowing up to $7 million for it.
Okay,
And so now we're going to go through the design process.
okay. All right. Do you have a OPM? Or are you going to start that?
Part of the process.
Okay, okay. Police station,
That's
That'll
on
be
the back
next.
burner.
Yeah, that'll be
is
next.
that 2 years from now?
It's like 3-tier in the
Right,
police.
but is this getting pushed a few years?
It's probably about 3 years.
Okay, 3 years. Sold. 5-minute break?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, time's up.
Hit that in.
In other departments, I assume you have an auditor. Are you talking about internal? What?
Powers and-
Right, but is someone saying,
We can select two departments a year
right,
and have them audit them, so.
so is that
But we haven't
new?
done it the past couple of years. It was in the bid specs. but we
So wouldn't you
couldn't
leave
seem
that to
get our hands on it.
this guy,
Yeah.
I would.
right? But what about the school? You're talking about like doing the lunchroom?
School, the
Talking about,
school- the school has its own audit.
No, they don't. Well, you have your own
It's the end
school?
of the year audit, that's all.
Yeah.
But they're part of our audit.
No, they're the audit, plus if they federal, if they have but you're talking about but, I mean, you can audit like the school lunch program if you're looking to do,
Or the student activity account or something like that.
yeah, so do you just want the town manager to pick a few?
I think
are
it
you-
should be left to the town.
Going once, going
Any
twice?
concerned area in
Okay.
his review
There you
of
go. That's your job,
finances?
Yep,
okay?
add it to the list.
Well, no, because you're there
No,
every
I'm
day. You
s-
get the
I'm kidding.
exposure of, hey,
No,
you know
it's
what? We get a little,
Something doesn't look
something a
right.
little loosey-goosey, and you know what? Even though we do 3 or 4 every year, and beyond our auditors, we have our treasurer and our accountant do their own mini auditors. They'll go up to the rec department and say, let me see your cash register, let me see that. They'll go down to the, so, always good. You know what? Better to find a little problem than get a big one. Okay, North Water Carver District, this sounds like a real easy one.
They're in a huge deficit.
I know that, so is there an answer?
Right now, no. We got bombed by the economy, for one thing.
Yeah,
Now, if
and no
that
customers.
developed, if that business area developed the way that we thought it would, it didn't happen.
So much is it taken out of your general fund every year?
Yeah,
We're
we-
looking at $140,000 this year. It's going to grow a little bit, but then start to go down. You look at
Because of
the
debt?
10-year subsidy, yeah, it's all debt.
If that was fully developed, it would be able to support itself, it still wouldn't be able to.
Well, no, it would
Yeah.
support itself over time. The issue is threefold, as Mr. Ward said. You had the economy. Also, there was $500,000 of betterments that were
Assessed.
Reduced, abated.
abated. And so when you put a budget together.
Why do they abate it? Just out of
Right,
curiosity.
that,
Doesn't matter, it's water under the
It's water
dam.
No, it wasn't just that. At town meeting, they told us that the 3 big developers up there were gonna each contribute 3/4 of a
Oh,
million.
and they never showed up.
No, yeah,
Okay.
All fell
So
through.
it's lack of customers?
yeah.
And you cut to the chase?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing you can do about this. So it's nice to complain about it, but
It's a
This is
long-term
like a-
investment to the community at this point.
Yeah.
and-
We've been complaining about it too long, we gotta move on, so,
all right. Well, you know what? You get to complain next year.
not me.
Consolidate departments, reduce or eliminate positions. Obviously, this is, I don't know when's the last time, I mean, someone put on another page, charter review, but, you know,
We
clearly.
don't have a charter.
No, but I mean, I'm just telling you, when we get to, you know, whether you consolidate, I don't know who is elected
This
and
is more-
appointed, or,
The restructuring was something that I've been wanting to do, but Mike is kind of working to work, he was working on that anyway, once we decided that we needed more resources in the police department, so that,
is there sacred cows? What are the
Some.
sacred cows? What are the ones he,
Getting
no, I mean, if you were gonna,
Protect
Why-
any
you know,
particular department.
oh, see, I never heard
Sacred
that.
cows, yep.
Did I hear that term, or am I just getting tired?
yeah, tow it.
It's a municipal term.
Oh, yeah. I
It's
never
like there's
heard
no
of it.
secrets in the big house.
Yeah.
That's what I use in town
See,
hall
I'm
here.
just such an honest
There's no-
person, I don't know what the sacred cow means, I don't
Well,
know.
it means like, oh, we can't, you know,
You
in our,
can't touch
in our
something?
town, we just finally got rid of the elected treasurer. I'm thinking, you know, we should have done that 40 years ago, but,
Yeah.
oh, that's, you can't do that. So, and that was a sacred cow
Okay,
until,
that- okay, that's what I thought, something that you
until we
can't-
have, well,
you
you know,
can't
blah,
touch.
blah, blah, you know, and so,
Okay.
you know, is there, or is everything open at least to look at?
Everything.
Town clerk?
Yeah.
I think everything's
One,
open
we
to
got,
look
that's
at.
the only thing left, so.
I mean, there's a few ideas on
Okay.
the table, and it's kind of.
So
in the
that's up to
works.
the manager to bring them forward?
Yeah, I think that's his job.
Yeah.
Okay. Develop fiscal strategies, is that's kind of already been covered or not? For school, police and
Yeah.
fire, is that annual operating or is that?
I think that's what you're working on, isn't
Right.
it?
Yeah, unless somebody has a different intent with that statement.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's okay.
Then the last one is-
Full-time building inspector?
We cut that down to part-time.
Yeah, I know, but someone said
Well,
put
some
on.
of, some of us did. I put that on there because it's my understanding, and I could be mistaken, that when it comes time for an assessment, there's an organization, and I'm blanking on it right now, that goes to towns on a periodic basis, and they get some kind of rating for, and if it gets too low, and if you have a part-time building commissioner, I said commissioner, not inspector.
Okay,
But,
sorry, yeah.
the homeowners' insurance rates can go up considerably.
See, when I took the regionalization conference through DOR, a town of Ashland, I think, and another town, they share a building inspector. And they have one of those intimate.
Well, I'm talking
means
about
I'll-
a commissioner, actually, it's
So
different.
the issue is, before you, is there a need for a full-time person? If there is,
Well,
fine.
based
If
on
there-
the numbers that were
Well,
covered.
that's your decision, I don't have any
Yeah.
facts.
Sarah, what's the difference between building commissioner?
A commissioner is in charge, it's a higher, another test.
A higher level?
So in our town, we have a commissioner and an inspector,
Correct.
Okay.
okay? So it's
Okay.
like a director and an assistant, you know,
Right.
whatever.
Okay.
So a commissioner is just a higher.
Okay, should we,
And I wish I brought that information, and I wasn't suggesting this is something that should be done right away. I think there are more pressing
Yeah.
needs, but I have a concern for the residents and their homeowners' insurance.
what?
I think you'd have to talk to IS, the folks, because, you know, every year you get, every 10 years they come out and look at your fire hydrants and your fire truck, but there's a zillion factors that go into that
Yeah.
rating, so you'd really have to get that information.
Right.
To see what, you know, if that's 2% or 42%, it makes a difference.
Right.
If it's like 2%, who cares? But
Right.
if it's,
Exactly.
you know, so
Right.
I think you can get the insurance, they're in New Jersey, I believe.
Yeah,
You
they
could
are.
get what the rating system
Scale
is.
is? The ratings?
I actually have that stuff at home, I just don't,
Oh,
I didn't bring
Oh,
it.
so we can just talk,
Yeah.
See, back on the regionalization, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to share our building
Well, but that's another
with
venue.
another
Yeah.
town, and maybe that
Do
would
you have any-
accomplish what
Do you have any,
Sarah's trying to do
do you have
now.
anybody that wants to dance with you?
But I mean,
Never gone that
no one,
far.
I mean, no one even
I know
tried
what
to go
that
out and
means.
do it. I
Well,
mean, then it would have fallen on me, and you don't want the micromanaging and stuff.
No,
So
my
maybe,
point is, regionalization has been on the forefront for 35 years, and this
Exactly.
much has got done.
Yeah.
You know what? Because this year you want to do it, but the town next to you doesn't, and 3 years later, so-and-so retired, so, oh, this is a perfect opportunity, and you just hired somebody. And so,
Well, no,
you got to get the
it-
stars to line up.
Exactly. You have to,
Probably.
the town administrators have to get together and work on it.
Well, it's all, it's more than that.
Primarily.
It's
I mean, we're
overcoming
in a-
300 years of tradition.
We're in a regionalization
That's-
service right now with the dogs. You know, we
Yeah, and
put
so
them
am
in
I.
an animal shelter, and, you know, we're sending them to Lakeville now.
No, we regionalize a lot, but you have to pick those spots when they come along. And
Right.
and it's
Yes.
really hard to get those lined up.
Exactly.
It's not impossible, you gotta be patient,
Yeah.
and sometimes you gotta take a tough vote. So I'm not suggesting it's not a good idea.
Oh, no.
It's just difficult to
And
achieve.
what they did in Ashland and that other town was they fully funded the
I
position.
think it was Hopkinton.
And they joined forces, and then, you know, afterwards, they would put the money in free cash or something like that. But they made sure that they stayed fully funded in case it didn't work out.
Yeah.
I asked one of the selectmen in Plimpton about what they thought about sharing a building inspector or a building inspector's office. And he pretty much said, yeah, if you pay for it.
Yeah, right. Well, the other issue, the other issue,
Part-time anyhow.
you know, the other issue, and we'll move on from this, but the other issue with that specifically is when you're the building commissioner and the zoning enforcement agent, now you have to have knowledge of both zoning laws in two different towns,
Yeah.
which creates, it's not as, you
Higher
know,
level.
yeah, versus if you had a shared inspector, it's just a lot of
Right.
work.
It gets complicated.
Anyway,
Just a duplication
so is
of
that
that.
something for future?
Yeah, should we put
Or
that
do you
under
want to,
the
you want
umbrella?
to, do you want to,
Someday,
but,
we should look into it.
so.
Maybe October?
Oh, we're all done?
No, we got more pages to do, come on. I didn't get a clear.
Well, I think we should just get our facts about it and whether or not it actually does have.
Do you want to put this on a future agenda? in
Sure, but there's, yeah,
2 months, 10 months, 3 years, 14?
After the
2 or
next
3 months.
election.
So the ball's in your court
Sure.
to get to Mike and the chair and pick a time, okay?
sure.
Okay. All
And
right.
what's that rating called, Sarah or Jeff?
Isn't it an ISO? No, it's,
Something else we said.
See, we don't have fire hydrants in town, only up.
yeah, no, only up in the very profitable water district.
And there's no tower to force the water to come out. No water.
Right.
But the fire chief, the fire
I think-
department and the building
You forget?
commissioner do joint inspections.
Yeah, you can
Why
get,
not?
I forget the name, you get the building and
I get it,
inspector.
I
or-
have it.
I just forget the name of it, but.
Can you let me know Tuesday, Sarah?
If I remember.
So this is, next,
All right, you think it's ISO?
no, it's something else. They're in New Jersey, I forget the name of them. One more, right? So this is what people put down for the next 3 to 5 years. Now, obviously, you're gonna have a new board, but, so you can say, this is nice, and put it on all hold, I don't, and then I get another sheet after that. Or is there anything here that's pressing, that should be in the next year's, agenda, or, so I'm looking for some direction on these.
Well, I think the revised master plan is huge, so that needs to stay.
And we.
What's that
and
mean?
we pay in money to, what's Serpent?
Serpent,
To,
it's the regional planning.
Yeah,
to assist us all the time, and the last time we did it, they assisted us, so.
Do you need a new master plan or an
It's-
updated?
Well,
Yes.
it's,
I don't think
it
it's
needs
ever been-
So are
updating.
you gonna form a committee, are you gonna pay some money?
Well,
You're
actually,
gonna-
it's really up to the planning board.
Well, but you could ask, I mean,
We
I
could
understand.
support them.
Right, I get that, but is that something that you'd like to ask them to do as a board?
I think they have the intention of doing it anyway, but I
So-
just think it should be supportive.
So, I mean, if the board sent a letter to the planning board or said, hey, we'd love you, we're real happy, what action item, if any, do you anticipate the board doing with this information?
Should we send a letter, Mike? Or,
I think
Was-
we,
I think they went to Capital Outlay requesting money, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know.
to revise
To
the min-
update the master plan.
Okay,
when was the master plan?
90.
2009.
but it
Okay,
was a lot of
Was
old
it-
data.
and we're.
They revised the sections that were required in
How
2009.
often does the state
Every-
want you
every
to
5 years.
to revise it?
Every 5 years.
So we're at that point,
We are.
Yeah.
so we should bring that up.
Well, you said it's already, someone already
Well, I
brought it
think
up.
they know.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we can ask them how they're progressing.
Yeah, to get a time
So
frame.
who's doing that?
I don't know if they watch
One of you
this-
guys want
they
to?
show this film, they should.
Maybe Mike can contact the town planner and see if they got it.
Okay, so Mike's
Yeah,
making a
plans.
call. Okay, green
Wouldn't
community.
take a lot of effort, would it?
No, well, you have push button or rotary here? No. What-
Green community, that was a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm on
It's
the Green
particularly tough
Committee.
because, this is just my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but I think that before, this town at least is going to become a green community, the whole Green Communities Act needs to be revised, and this whole stretch code thing taken out of it, because that's made it such a political
Right.
problem. And the irony is that, of course, every year, what was last year's
They
stretch
move up
code
the standard,
is now in the
yeah.
building code. So it's like it gets adopted just de facto anyway, which I guess nobody really gets. But it's one of the requirements to becoming a green community.
Right, I know.
So we've done almost everything else to become a green community except for that, and it becomes some big heated political battle, which it really shouldn't be.
And
So-
we had a couple of meetings, the Green Committee, with builders and contractors in town. And they still opposed it very strongly at our town meeting. And that's why it got turned down
Yep.
at town meeting.
And they're right in the sense that it adds some cost. But the problem is that whether we like it or not, it becomes part of the building code. This year's stretch code is next year's building code. So why not just adopt it and move on? And
I think a lot of people got scared about what the ramifications might be if it was
Well,
explained.
it was more
better to
political than
people.
that.
Well, you can't just.
So
keep
wait,
saying
wait,
it's political.
so
We have
where
to
are you
know-
at this
I
point?
think,
Nowhere.
I think we need to make it more transparent so people.
So
Well, it was
what-
pretty
what-
darn
after
transparent.
it
Well,
got
I have to
turned-
say, I'm still in favor of not automatically just
selectmen's
saying
vote?
yes to a stretch. It had to go
Oh,
to
it's a town meeting vote?
It's a town meeting vote.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we have to let the politicians know that, I understand the fact that eventually it goes into the building code, but if people that are opposed to it don't continue to speak
I
on
think-
it,
Well, I think the issue with the stretch code, but it was only what do you have? You'd have 3,500 square foot house?
No. It-
Oh, 3,000.
Yeah, it had to be
It
really
had to be a big house.
Yeah, it only affected like really big houses.
Right.
There was a lot of misinformation.
I just think it needs to be fully explained.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do?
I think we should wait for the next
They're
board,
continuing
actually.
What?
That's a good idea.
What?
I agree with Helen.
Yeah, well,
Do
that-
what?
that's because,
Wait till the next board.
And then do
wait till the
what?
next board who will have the
Yeah.
majority to say yes to the
Do you
green
want to,
community.
you going to have a list of items to discuss? Is that,
Well, that's not why, really,
Okay.
Helen, because I think this board could put it on a town meeting, and
Too
the
soon.
town meeting could still say no.
Right.
So,
It's up to town meeting, but it really needs to be explained more.
There
Right.
needs to be some more
More
education.
explanation,
Okay.
updated education.
Education.
so what's the action
So
item?
the Green Committee that was in existence, that was working towards that, basically became defunct after that got
Okay.
turned down.
So what do you want to do?
So we,
revise the community preservation, Green
Okay, but you're
Communities
not going to
Act.
do that tomorrow. So is there any action item for this board, the next board, the town
Well,
administrator?
what was interesting was one of the town administrator candidates we visited said that they had become a Green Committee, and they were receiving their first grant from the Green Committee of $150,000.
I think it was Rockland.
And when that hit me, I'm saying, there are 5 components to that
Right.
Green Community Act, and we couldn't get that building code, that stretch code.
That's right.
So we lost out on,
But that's where
Yeah.
education's
Grant
gonna be
funding.
important, because
Yeah.
the $150,000 that you're talking about, what is that grant for?
It's for
And just
things like
money.
putting solar panels on the town hall to cut down on
Or buying
electric bill,
vehicles.
things
If
like that.
that's the case, then that needs to be
well,
explained to.
Okay, instead of debating the issue,
But that's
what's
what
the
I'm
action
saying.
item?
I think the
we should go to
stumbling
the next
block was
one,
the
yeah.
stretch code, but Sarah was saying
Right, but,
it's already been adopted
So-
in the.
No, the point is that
No.
what happens is that each time the building code comes out,
the new
the
version.
new
Yeah,
version
new
of the building
That
code
comes out from the state, right?
from the
Right.
state,
Yeah.
that
National
new
now.
version has incorporated what used to be the stretch code into it.
They're
So now
raising
it's
the
a
bar
little
for
more
energy
exact,
efficiency in
stricter and a little more
houses. That's not,
strict.
it's not going to stop.
So regardless of
I
whether
would
we like the
imagine,
stretch code or
yeah.
not, we're going to have to build our houses
So the-
using the new building code, which
I would
has
imagine
the
the
And I think
stretch
that's
code.
stretch
what needs
code
to
is a
be
little more.
explained.
It was
Yes.
explained.
Going
pretty
once,
well.
going twice. What do you want to do? You
I
want-
thought, Helen's idea was to wait.
To wait till when?
Well, to wait for the next board.
So May,
To-
June?
Maybe Sarah can put it on the agenda at that time.
That's fine.
So pick a month, I don't care what it is.
June.
June, okay, thanks. North Carver Landville.
What's
Well, I
that
think
mean?
that's something we're kind of trying to do anyway.
Does that mean solar on the North Carver plan?
All kinds of things.
Yeah, we're already working on that, so.
That's ongoing?
ongoing.
Yeah.
That's, okay, so no action. A
They
charter?
Put solar, right? Now, is that what you're working on?
Charter?
That was my thing. I've been hammering that thing to have a charter all along, because
You
I
need a
think
ch-
most communities do. It's like having. the
And you
master
still don't
plan
have
for
one?
your town. No.
So you can only do it
Well,
one
it
of two
takes
ways.
years. It takes
Well,
years
you gotta
to
have a
go through
charter
that,
committee or a
yeah.
special act, so you have to have a committee either
But that
way.
has to be approved at town meeting, right?
So we have a governance committee right now.
Okay.
It just started, and it's gonna be focusing on doing what it can between now and town meeting, the low-hanging fruit,
Right.
the easy issues.
Okay,
And then after town meeting, starting to go through the bylaws in depth and try to make sure that they're all consistent with the
bless you. So,
So that's the group that can,
so that's ongoing?
that's ongoing.
And so people can have input, have you looked into this or looked into that?
Right, now, it's not a charter committee, because
No,
it's a
right,
special act.
right,
Yeah.
but it's a special act, okay.
But you would have to put it on town meeting, right? From-
No, ballot.
Oh, ballot?
Well, usually the legis,
It does have to be approved at the town meeting first, and then go to ballot?
usually. Yeah, you know, they usually want that,
Most towns have a charter?
yeah. Right.
You guys cool?
Well, what it ultimately does, I mean, you know, I know everybody likes their own little community, but ultimately it makes the government more efficient, in my opinion. When you streamline accountability, responsibility.
That's right.
You know, people don't like change, I get that, but especially here, I know parochialism is a constitutional law here in Massachusetts, but, you know, this is a big business.
Yep.
And you can't be running it like 1930 or 1830, and it's just hard to get the people at town meeting. They don't want to give up that sacred issue. Cow, that's right. And you know what? It's been milked dry. So,
Any little business that incorporates their business in Massachusetts has a charter.
right,
A
so.
little tiny.
Okay, so that's, we're gonna, virtual town meetings, I didn't know what that meant.
That was me.
Okay, what's a virtual town meeting?
Well, I just want to be able to investigate, put on the agenda, learn about being able to electronically have people be part of town meeting that can't attend the meetings. There's a lot of seniors in this town, and there's a lot of people that just frankly don't have time.
It's
to
not
go to-
live? Or you want to?
It's live, but I want
They
to
can vote
learn
from
if there's a
home.
way they can vote
Oh, that's-
from home.
Are you talking about town meeting or?
Town meeting.
That's a statutory issue.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
Can't do that.
But I'd like to.
How do you register to vote if you're at home? Because you have to register to walk into the town meeting.
Well, they
So
give
you'd
you
need a
code.
statutory change.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just
You probably
saying,
have a
Yeah.
user ID and a password
Right.
to get in.
you need a statutory change. You
So I
cannot
would
do
have
it-
to go through a legislator.
You'd have to go through the
How-
legislature.
What
I would
always
have to
wanted
go through a
have is-
legislator first to see if they could
What I
promote
always
it on
wanted to have
Beacon
was the
Hill.
people sitting in their seats at town meeting just press on.
Well, that's a
Button
different issue.
someplace.
The issue is
Yeah.
what she's wanting, it's
Yeah.
not allowed by law, okay? And, you know, all the town
But in
clerks.
some states, they've allowed people to vote through
Well,
the
some
email.
states have a lot, you know, you can register the day of election, you can, blah, blah, blah. In
Massachusetts,
Massachusetts, we
right.
have what we have, and although they are looking at a voter reform law now that would require, that would ease up some of those restrictions.
Right.
The
Yeah.
town clerks are not happy about it, and it might cost you money
Yeah.
if it passes, but, so,
No, but thank you. I can look into that.
okay, so,
So
that's.
you can cross that out for
That's a good
us.
idea.
And yeah, you
But
can
I-
look at it, Tay.
But I can speak to some of our reps.
New business initiative. Can we just knock off 7, because you already
Yeah.
talked about that? Is that fair?
Yeah,
Expand information, so, and then I have one more page and we'll be all done.
wow, I thought we were all done
No,
with this.
no. It gets shorter as the years go on. No. New business initiative. I didn't write that down.
That was me just talking about, like North Carver Water District, one of the main
Oh, try to
reasons
get
why
that, right.
is to bring in the new business. So if we do, start with the Board of Selectmen to, promote the fact that, how we can, maybe help the BDC committee, the Business
You
Development
mean
Committee.
like Carver means business?
Correct, exactly, that we have to put it as a priority, that,
So is there an action item on this? sometime in the next 3 to 5 years, because that's what the length of this is. Or it could be shorter, obviously, because the master plan got moved up. Green community
I
sounds
think
like
the
it's...
greatest area where business can be attractive is North Carver, is that
Right,
true?
right.
I don't know if there's very much
Well,
space in
when you
South
have,
Carver.
when you have water too.
That's what I was,
Yeah, but
that's what I
Right,
was
so,
getting to.
but is there anything for the board to do in the short run?
I would,
Probably.
I was thinking that, is there a way to re-emphasize the need for new business with the BBC and the planning department? I mean, is there some other initiative that they could take on that
Well,
would
Right.
help
there might
the
be some
situation?
incentives, like, and I don't know.
I don't know, I mean, I'm just saying, maybe we do just outreach with.
Well, I mean, a lot of
a
things I can
discussion.
tell you that it hasn't helped, but it doesn't hurt. You know, we have priority development sites, we have, you know,
We
we've
have
passed,
those, too.
we've passed every zoning bylaw that the Commonwealth wants, that no one's knocked on our door yet, but it hasn't hurt us to do it, but.
Right.
Yeah, we developed those as well.
Okay, you have all those,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I don't know who initiates
Do-
TIFs, like tax incentive.
Right.
Well, we have that too.
That might attract them, too.
Well, you know, we only give out a couple because it has to be a good company. And somebody
Oh,
that
yeah,
pay-
absolutely.
somebody pays lousy wages and lousy job, we're not going to give them one.
Right.
But, you know, we've had a couple really high-tech, high-paying jobs, a lot of visitors from out of the country. We have hotels in town. You know, give them a little tax break. We're getting it back in meals tax, hotel tax. So,
So the tips have worked for Franklin?
well, we've only given out 3 in 15 years because, A, you have to be eligible under the laws of the Commonwealth, and B, we're picky. You know,
But the
and they've
three
gone to all high-tech companies
Yeah.
that have brought in, you know,
Jobs
very
and-
good
right,
jobs
right, right.
and visitors, et cetera.
So that could
But
work.
you also said you have the meals and the hotel tax, so if you're giving it away here, you're getting it on the back door.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So you're really not giving any.
Well, I mean, you know, the time will tell, but I mean,
Right.
Conceptually.
That's the.
well, I mean, the other thing, it was vacant land, and they'd put a building on it, so we were already collecting the taxes on the vacant land, and if we
Right.
gave them a 20%, whatever the number was, we're still getting more than nothing, and in 10-year, they were all 10-year deals, we didn't do long ones.
Right.
So, you're right, hopefully, you know, we make $1 million a
In
year
New York,
between those
they-
two taxes.
New York has tax-free zones now. So you
Yeah,
put your
so,
business out there.
is there anything you're gonna do, or wanna do, or think about it, or?
Well, jobs is a big issue, trying to create
Right.
jobs and give people opportunities not to get involved in drugs, et cetera.
Right.
So this has clearly been a priority that the town's been talking about, just figuring out where and how and what
Right.
can be done to stimulate it.
And
So-
even just part-time jobs, because we have a lot of senior citizens
No,
that live in town and
Yeah.
a lot of children.
So is there something you can just put on a future agenda and say, geez, let's just bring this up in November and.
Yeah, maybe have
and-
the BBC come to our
and-
meeting.
And maybe something comes of it, maybe nothing does it, but it won't get lost in the woodwork?
Exactly.
And part of the problem is that, I think the same is true for the planning board, you know, you can want all these things to come in, but you can't make them.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know.
We only
But
have
you're
a
on the
certain
same
amount of
boat as
business
everybody.
property.
It's a bad economy, you know, there's a glut of office space, there's a glut of a lot of stuff, and
It's
so
true,
it's,
but-
you just gotta keep plugging along.
You do, and that's why I think revisiting the issue and maybe just supporting the
Okay.
BDC committee and say, you know, what can we tweak maybe in the town that may help attract the business and just keep it on the forefront,
Okay.
So put jobs and new business in May?
November, I said.
November.
November?
Well, you wanna do it quick, I think you
Yeah.
got a lot of work to do here, but.
Yeah, we do.
We're going to have two
We're
new
go-
selectmen that are going
yeah.
to be full of energy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they're gonna be working 40 hours a week, yeah, so. And then the last one, well, on this page, expand information on dealing with social issues.
I'm not sure who. Expand information for residents dealing with does this, whoever put this on, does this have to do with the drug issues and?
It was opportunity, I mean, I think I streamlined it, it was, might have been you.
Weren't you having Tink look into that or something?
Okay, this ties back into the heroin, is we can do the law
Yeah.
enforcement, but it's really working with treatment and helping out family members because.
Right.
That type of situation.
So probably, maybe it's just getting information out to residents about where they can go or how they can.
Right, and do you have a venue for that? Do you have,
I think our health agent was
The
working
health
on it, but
agent is taking this over.
Okay,
As of the last
Yeah.
meeting.
And
Okay.
not only that, they're assigning roles from that drug, the community, you were there.
Right.
The community has put together the drug forum, and on the 25th, they're going to be assigning tasks, and that was one of the.
There are
one
a
of the,
lot of social issues
Yeah,
that are
that they
brought
want to
up.
have
This is
addressed.
going to be a quick one. You'll be happy.
He must have an 8 o'clock curfew.
No, I don't.
It's getting cold in
Oh, you
here.
already get them. It says already listed.
Well, that's why I said,
Oh, wow.
okay, I know, already listed.
You had your
listed.
little computer running, and you printed them right off just now?
Yes.
So what wasn't already listed, other than 7, which is, okay, we know that, unless someone had a comment.
Tax increases residents cannot afford.
Yeah, I put that down just because you said, what are the 5 biggest issues facing the future of Carver? So
And one of the
again,
issues is you might be faced with that issue, right?
exactly, and we have to take that into consideration when we're making all these decisions, because if you have a whole population that we out-tax when we're doing all this, we're gonna have a lot of people walking out of Carver. So the only reason I put it is because you asked, what are the
Yep,
5
that's
biggest
fine.
issues? So
Yep, okay.
it's just important to keep it on the forefront when we're discussing all of these.
Tax increases, there's no doubt, is an issue.
Well, they're going up.
Where isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck in this community.
right, yeah.
Doing a tax, override or any type of other issue.
It's tough to swallow, tough to swallow.
Bankruptcy.
Yeah,
Right.
it's huge.
Yeah, I know. Okay, increased voter awareness participation, number 9.
If
We
they
only-
come
yeah.
to, if they come to the town meeting, they get to take a raffle on a gun. That's the latest thing they're doing down
Is
south,
that in Texas?
in the
Oh,
churches.
my God.
Be careful, they might recall you.
It's a Yeah, no, I don't even want to go to that meeting.
But whoever put that down,
I'm joking,
it
right?
is
How about you should have said it.
It's a struggle everywhere.
it is a struggle.
You can't get people to volunteer, you can't get people to vote, you can't,
I do too. Yeah. You got to wait in line for a gun permit, though.
We've thought a lot about that. Tax increases residents cannot, for no.
no, number
On the
9.
Increase in voter awareness.
I think it is a big issue
I mean, how
facing
do you-
Carver.
We
Well-
got 8,200 voters, and the most we ever get in an election is what, 2,000?
Yeah.
Do you have a reverse 911?
Sort of.
We do through the sheriff. I don't know if they'd let us use it.
Oh, you don't have your own?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for emergencies,
Yeah.
and, oh, we love it, every time we have a water break.
Although he is elected.
You know, we can draw a
and I like
circle,
the
and
idea.
you're 900 people, you don't get water for the next 6 hours, or we use it. and
He
we
might
don't
like
u-
the idea that maybe he'll use it next time he
Yeah,
runs for
Sheriff
re-election.
so-and-so reminds you to go out and vote for me today. No.
No, babysitting's available at the voting
Yeah.
places.
So there's not a lot that can be,
Well, I just want to
Good.
ask Dick a question, because he was in the schools for a long time. Do they talk about educating the kids on voter and why it's important and all?
Civics, they say, civics. is-
No, but I mean just for the whole entire school, because, we may not be able to get the older folks unless we really think through this strategy, but at least start in the schools, like in the 11th grade, junior year of high school until
Well, that's
I
what-
move to
but-
this.
But one of the things they're trying to do nationally is let 17-year-old kids register to vote early.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things you need to bring to the state.
No, what I'm just trying to
trying to-
educate kids on how important it is to vote, because, Jeff, when I first moved to this town, I had never heard of town meeting and this type of form of government.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went to the first meeting that I realized how important it was, and that you're actually voting for your money in town.
Right.
Going to town meeting.
Right.
And I'm just talking about general education to the kids in terms of how important
I'd
it
ask the
is for them.
superintendent if there's something that they can do.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if
There
that.
are, no, they do, in the
So
US
one-
history courses and such, they
But no, but
they
some-
talk a lot about local, local.
But I
Actually,
think
they-
the issue is, can somebody go into the high school, I mean, I go into the high school every year and do a civics class, and then I talk a lot about town government. Can somebody, a selectman or the manager or something, go in and hit the 11th and 12th
Yeah.
grade or whatever it is, and I say to people, does anybody know how much our last fire truck cost?
Exactly.
And I said, it's $870,000. What? $870,000? Yeah. And do you like
Is
the
that
new?
a ladder truck or an engine?
That's a ladder. It's a platform.
To
but,
learn
I
about
mean,
your town and the finances and, why it's so important that as they grow into young adults, why it's important to be, and you could talk about the involvement.
So I
in
think the issue is
community.
trying to find a venue. No one's going to disagree. I think the best statement I heard, it was, when 9/11 happened, who were the people that went to rescue the people? Was it the federal government? No. Was it the
local.
state government? No. It was the local government,
Right.
okay? The local government educates your kids, get the ambulance to the house, the street, and people don't pay any attention, to it. And then we have this big debate about the federal government that's useless. That's off the record.
They're watching you.
Yeah, well, good for them.
Well, every 2 years is an election, the same people get voted.
So anyway, I think the issue is to try to find a venue and work with the superintendent. Someone could take the lead on that if you wanted.
Who
Going
put that
once?
down?
I did. Every so often, the scouts, the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts
Right.
will ask me, can you talk to the kids
Right.
about, and I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
And they're fascinated.
So-
They have-
so-
they-
But going into the
Yeah.
high school, I mean, that's.
It's a different level, but yeah.
Yeah, but
Right.
maybe, you know what would be nice? If each selectman did one venue once a
Right.
year. And maybe
See,
you
that's
did the
a good
Boy
idea.
Scouts, and you
Yeah, I
did
did
something
the
else,
Boy
and you
Scouts,
did
Cub Scouts.
that, and, the new people.
These two guys.
No, but whatever, you could,
Make it-
part of your civic responsibility is to pay it forward.
Right.
And Mike could do something, and,
That's a great idea.
And try to find a venue. Can you get 5 or 6 venues?
Right.
And this is long-term, repeat,
Right.
repeat.
So we had I did one recently with the the Cub Scouts, and we had a very interesting discussion about, they didn't really get the distinction between public and private property.
Right.
So why was it okay that you made a sign and wrote whatever you wanted, because we have freedom of speech.
Right.
But you can only do that if you've made that sign and you stick it in your own yard.
Right.
But when it's a public sign, when it
Right.
belongs to all of us, you
Right.
can't go doing that, because
Right, yeah.
it's hurting everybody. And it was they got it.
The other opportunity I take is, well, they're younger kids, but, I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Like yesterday was National Read Day or something, so I was in a 7th grade elementary school.
That's good.
You take opportunities to, after you read, and
Yeah,
who wants to
to
talk
talk
about the
about-
town, and
Yeah.
so, I think if you can 6 venues and each one, everybody take one,
I like that idea.
and then you can just check back and, I'd say check back in January to see if anyone's done one, so
Yeah.
put it on a January agenda to see, just as a gut check, or something, or February. So obviously, you're not going to do it in the next, or you do an all-out push because you have a town meeting and election coming.
Right.
I didn't see it.
Okay, protect our water resources.
Well, I'll just say that we are a cranberry town, agriculture, and our water resources are very important. We pick our edible crop in the water.
So it's really your aquifer. You don't have, everybody has a well?
Almost the whole town has a well. Yeah, we're over the Plymouth Carver aquifer.
And we don't have any water issues downtown.
No.
Well, except that it's a commonwealth.
No, I mean, just
Just want to protect. them
maintaining the
because-
quality of the water is important.
Well, isn't that going to come in stormwater regs and?
Partially, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I also meant this because it's a commonwealth.
Right.
And the town twice tried to pass a bylaw where the town was the sole purveyor of water. And the first one failed. The Attorney General did not
Right.
like it. And I believe the second time around, it was rewritten and it got accepted.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? The
It
town
means
is
that
a sole.
Well, so for example, the city of Brockton takes its
Oh,
water
they steal.
from,
Yeah, they steal it from other-
from Halifax.
Yeah, other
It's like,
places,
Wait a
right,
second.
right.
No.
Oh, so you didn't want anybody else taking your water?
That was part of it, but
Company
part of it
can't
is
come in.
quality as well.
And become the supplier of water, because our Board of Selectmen or such
Okay.
is the
Okay.
water.
So is there any
commission,
action
other than
item, or
the-
is this a reminder?
It's more of a reminder.
Okay. Support nonprofits for safe place for kids.
That must be from BIPAC, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Mhm.
So is there an action item?
No.
Okay. Solar farms, is that related to the earlier discussion? Is that you? So you're all set with that?
Yes.
Okay. Retain and grow cover business, lack of business, and those all kind of go together. I know the
Yeah, they do.
cranberry.
Master
So,
plan, yeah.
so how is that going to be a master plan? Is that going to be,
I think so.
okay.
It'll be part of it.
So those are all covered? Is that fair? Okay. I'll leave these for you. These are for light reading, because if you're not bored enough. It's really, there's 3 or 4 articles, great for the new members as well, or people running, about you're elected, now what? And these are taken from different authors. One is the relationship between the selectmen and the administrator, and I forget, what was the other one I
Thank
had?
you.
Do we get to slap them around and stuff?
Oh, yeah, 12 ways to increase the public confidence in the board. So I'll leave any extras here. You know, again, these are all public documents. They've been written and rewritten, and I've noted the authors.
You're elected, now what?
And you might want to give, you know, people running. So just something, you know, some reminders of what we talked about early on, about how being a team player, about how taking responsibility, and they're just good for you to have and pass along, so.
Oh, this would be good for,
Yeah, so there's extra copies, I think.
Do we have
For
extra
Andy
copies?
and-
Yeah, I left here, Mike. So, you know, some light reading. So, any final comments, suggestions, or ideas?
no, just thank you.
All right, I'm gonna check back in 6 months to see if you people are doing all this.
I'll be here,
Just
so
read
I'll
the
be here.
newspaper.
No, but what I would be, if you'd be so kind to send me a copy of the minutes of this meeting, because I assume at some point you're gonna,
Where's the agenda?
well, no, but I mean, the idea that all the things you agreed with, the timelines,
Yep.
not at this meeting, but if there's a summary that, because obviously follow-through is the name of the game.
Right.
Next steps, is that where we're at right now?
Next steps, more brownies, water, and, no,
He likes the
Just
brownies, Michelle.
Any-
Those were some from Subway, that just moved into town.
right. Any other, if not, I mean, if there's anything else I can help you with, I'm a phone call away if you have any questions.
Anyone else
Could you
have any
find out,
questions?
could you find out the name of that rating list for me?
So what?
The rating list you were talking about earlier?
For the fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said she had it.
Well, Sarah has it at home.
She has it at home. I mean, I think I can find it next week.
Thank
I'm
you.
away.
Do you have
Well, you
anything to
can
say,
find it, give it
Michael?
to her.
Michael, any comments?
No, I think
Keep it short.
this is a, you know, an opportunity
8
for you
o'clock.
guys to all talk about your issues and work on this and finalize our goals and objectives going forward. We'll summarize
Yeah.
these and discuss them in our meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah. Everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah, I-
Take a vote.
Yeah, we need-
Anything-
we
No,
need
I
to
think
adjourn.
the discussion addressed most of the, all the crucial issues that I can think of. I mean, we have all the day-to-day things, too. Those are the
And I
crucial,
think,
big issues.
You know, next May, after the next election, or early June, you could do this again. You know,
Yes, we should.
you have a new team every year, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but,
Right.
and see what you've accomplished, what moves up on the list, what moves
Yeah.
down on the list, and
And you
just,
guys will be experienced, so.
There you
should have
go.
some real good issues in it.
There you go.
Sarah, got anything to add
always
to it?
blame your predecessor.
Very good.
He said it 5 times. Do you think he's excited about getting off
One
the
and
board?
done. I served a few years ago, too. That
Okay.
was enough.
Well, good for you.
All right, so, I will
Make a motion.
make a motion for. who
I'll
wants
make
to
a
it?
motion to adjourn this wonderful meeting.
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
My pleasure.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.